On my last day of this Midwest podcast trip, I made a stop in Joplin, Missouri to see Frank of Speed Dealer Customs. As a young boy, Frank's family moved to America from Holland to seek the American dream. Fast forward to 2023, and Frank has been in the machining industry for over 40 years, many of which he has been making custom motorcycle parts for the motorcycle industry. As of recently, his custom FXR and bagger swing arms have filled a void in the market by not only creating an amazing product, but also having quality customer service to match the quality of his products. Frank is also a new owner of a historic Route 66 building in downtown Joplin, which he is remodeling to open a motorcycle destination on this historic route. The building has an original speakeasy from the 1920s, and Frank plans to bring it back to life for travelers and bikers passing through. Please take the time to check out our sponsors in the description below and enjoy our podcast with Frank, the Speed Dealer.
Crawling underneath a car pulling a transmission or
Yeah.
whatever, it was like, fuck, man, then you're going to be down with your back for like 2-3 days, you know.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, I'm glad we made this happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I appreciate you coming down and traveling. You know, I've been trying to come up there for 2 months, but I
been a wild
appreciate the investment in time and what you do for the industry.
Oh, well,
for sure,
thank you.
bud.
Thank you. It's kind of I don't know if it's like worth that much praise because I enjoy it so much as a kind of almost a selfish endeavor, if you will, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well.
So it's fun.
That's me, so I'm cool with that for sure. Yeah.
But man, like I said, I've known about you forever.
Yeah.
Especially through being friends with James Carter and Jason and Boosted Brad and whatnot. Yeah. But when you built that FXR a year and a half ago, I guess going on 2 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it definitely broke the FXR world for quite a while.
Yes,
you know what I mean? It was so much innovative parts on there, and we'll definitely get into talking about that bike later. But just kind of as an introduction to how I hate saying this because it sounds kind of weird, but how you came into my radar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if that sounds kind of pretentious or something like that.
No, it doesn't, because that's exactly when I become on everyone's radar.
Yeah.
Because I've been so busy on my machine shop side.
Yeah.
And devoted how much time I had to do that as far as managing the machine shop. The passion was on my motorcycle side.
Yeah.
But just recently, the last 2-3 years, I put people in place to manage my machine shop side.
Yeah.
So I can pay more attention to the Speed Dealer brand. I've been doing it for like 10 or 12 years, or 2005, whatever the math is on that.
Oh, 2005 is like 20 years almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Time flies, dude. Yeah, so that's when I started. But again, it's only about 30% of my business. And then getting a kid that's worked me since he's 14 years old, mowed my yard, now he runs my business.
That's right.
And my wife helps me on the bookkeeping. And then I got an incredible programmer that helps me design and stuff. So it's gave me the flexibility and the time to invest back in the Speed Dealer brand. So that's when I really got serious about it, when I went to Sturgis the first time with that bike. I've built bikes before, but never traveled with them or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, like you had mentioned to me last night when we were kind of going out to dinner and whatnot that you're originally from Poland, right?
Holland,
sorry.
Netherlands. You're fine. Oh. Yeah, I was born and raised there, and I'll always be a Dutchman.
Mm-hmm.
The culture and stuff, because that's European country, the food and and the deal and stuff. But then when we came to this country, I carried a green card like an immigrant till I was 17 years old. And since I'm Caucasian, not Latino and stuff, but I still deal with all the prejudice and stuff as being an immigrant, part of his taxes and stuff. But a Dutchman for sure, but I'm proud American, and always will be, because I'm not going to die anytime soon, but I'll die a proud American. Born a Dutchman, but the opportunity in this country is just
Well, what was the catalyst to get you and your family to move here originally?
My family all are butchers, and so my dad was a Catholic family. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not that religious anymore or anything like that. So he just came here for, like any immigrant, for a better opportunity.
Yeah.
Because it's a socialistic society. kind of like Canada.
All right.
And no type entrepreneurship at all.
So it's not quite on the communist side of things, but there is still a lot of
social
regulation
programs,
and things like that.
Yeah. Medicine, your doctors are paid for and stuff like that. So it's very well heavily taxed and stuff. So my dad wanted an opportunity.
Yeah.
And my dad, having the balls that he did, he took his 2 young kids and his wife and says, that's the hardest country to get into, so that's where we're going.
Yeah, there must be some promise there then. You know?
He had sisters that migrated to Australia. He comes from 9 siblings, and 3 of his sisters went to Australia. And it was like his sisters would write my mom and say, you don't want to come here because women got to work like men. And, you know, they were living off back of pickup trucks and catching freaking crocodile and freaking kangaroos. And it was like a little deal. But
what year was this? Like what time frame?
In the 60s, early 60s.
That would probably still be pretty. I'm sure there's going to be a movie about that era and that place at some point in time. But I could imagine there's got to be some wildness. You don't hear a lot about Australia.
No.
In within like the last 200 years, like what they've really.
Oh yeah. Well, originally it was the place with all the English people took the prisoners.
Yeah.
You know, it was lawless, you know, and everything. Like, let's just put them on this big island and let them run wild. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I mean, definitely, if anybody listens to Rogan, they've heard that story so many times. But yeah, like I said, you just don't hear much about like their history as far as government, like any kind of civil wars or. You just don't hear much about that. You just like all of a sudden once they got Instagram, it's like, oh shit,
that's a cool country.
Yeah, they got a lot of our similar culture to us and stuff. But so when you came here, did y'all come straight to Missouri or was there another?
Yeah, we actually ended up in Chinook, Kansas. My dad got a job there. He was a butcher by trade. So
that makes sense with Kansas being with livestock and things like that.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and we dealt with all kinds of issues as far as immigrants and stuff. Believe this or not, we actually dealt with the Ku Klux Klan.
For real?
Oh yeah, because we were immigrants, and the community kind of had like a community welcoming thing for immigrants and stuff, you know. And we weren't Latinos or anything like that. We're Caucasian looking, but like you said earlier, there was people from Poland and Holland, and back in the day, they didn't like that, dude.
Yeah,
they didn't like it. So we had my dad had a kind of a confrontation with a group of them one time, and took his first paycheck and bought a $5 pistol and put it in his $100 Dodge freaking car, you know, to protect his family and stuff. But that was really the only deal other than that. And then we just, he got another management job here in Joplin, and that's how we ended up here and been in here ever since.
Oh, yeah. So you pretty much, quite a few years here in Joplin to see the city kind of go through its waves.
Oh, yeah. We had a devastating tornado in 2010 or 11, killed 168 people. Lasted 5 minutes, 280 to 300 mile an hour wind. Yeah, for a mile wide and 5 miles long, it sucked all the grass out of the ground.
Holy shit!
There was no trees. It was.
You're scaring people that aren't from the Midwest at all.
Yeah, it killed 168 people, dude.
Yeah, when people talk about tornadoes, especially because we get them coming through North Texas and whatnot, but man, there's such a pinpointed, fine path of destruction that usually hurricanes cause more destruction. You know what I mean? It's a wider
the whole state of Florida, tornadoes like only a mile wide and 6 miles long.
On the big end.
On the big end.
On the big end. I mean, other than that, you can have a tornado literally come down and destroy your neighbor's house and not even do a thing to yours.
And that's what happened in Joplin, dude. It was like when it all happened, we headed towards Joplin to help. And when it started calling on my friends and stuff, he said, dude, you got to get here. It's like an atomic bomb went here. There was cars upside down, hospitals on fire. It was like a nuclear bomb went off. Never seen nothing like it again.
They had a really gnarly one that went through like South Oklahoma, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
By Oklahoma City,
Yeah, that was, my wife was living in there at the time. So, that's I mean, like I said, you can pull that over towards you, the whole thing. But yeah, I had, like I said, being in Texas, we've always had the tornado warnings and the sirens and, seen one, 10 miles in the distance things, but I just, haven't had one like right on me yet. You know what I mean?
Well, I've been through a couple of them that you can actually see the tornado. The one that actually devastated Joplin was around this monstrous rain cloud. So we heard it.
Yeah.
You know, we're 5 miles away from downtown Joplin. We heard it. It sounds like a big train.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was just all this rain, thick with rain, and we didn't see the
actual funnel
like we usually do here. I've seen 5 or 6 big funnels. They're freaking like crazy.
Yeah.
I got buddies that actually go chase them. I think that's cool.
It's strange because, you know, I know the terrain has a lot to do with how they kind of form and work. And you guys are, especially right here, you're not flat.
No.
But you're starting to get these rolling hills, and and it's the same thing in Woodward, right? Because Woodward over there where Covington's is, it's really rolling hills. It's actually I find it beautiful. I love the riding in these kind of similar places, but it still lends itself to create enough turbulence in the wind to create a tornado versus you don't hear about them much in Arkansas.
No. What's really strange, just like when you came from Bare Knuckle Paul, it seems like the Tornado Alley follows right up I-44. It stays just south. I mean, almost like that's the path that was designed by nature, that I-44 is supposed to be the path of tornadoes that go through, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I could be full of shit, but I just heard through growing up that you know, the terrain cuts the wind, and it makes it to where it can't, like, create enough of a collective disturbance to create a funnel. You know what I mean? So
I do.
I'm sure there's anomalies that take place, but I think that that's pretty much how it's been, because it makes sense, you know?
Oh, it does to me, yeah.
You don't hear them in fucking Colorado in the Rockies.
No, and I think what's really weird about tornadoes, I think this is the only place in the whole world in the Midwest that tornadoes actually happen. I don't think
exactly. I heard something like that. I wish we had a young Jamie right here to check this, but you know, it's I heard the same thing. I heard that tornadoes are a unique thing to America.
Yeah, I think so too.
I could be wrong.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was wrong once, but I think I was wrong about being wrong, you know. Yeah. Yeah, but it's just something that we just deal with.
Yeah.
It's hard to actually think that the destruction that we deal with from May to about July, every night, it could be like everything would just be destroyed. You know?
But that's like the same thing that people in Florida deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we just become accustomed to it. It's like tornado sirens, and sometimes we get serious about it.
Yeah.
Me, not so much because I've been around. And my wife, if a freaking alarm goes off, she's digging holes down in the basement and putting mattresses over her and the boy and just freaking out. You know, the dogs are down there with her, but to me, I'm out there mowing the yard watching the turbulence of the clouds.
You're the guy getting the good video for the news channel. So but that's you know, like I said, Florida with the hurricanes, and then I mean the whole East Coast literally gets hammered with hurricanes, and Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
But also, like, you know, with you know, earthquakes in California. I mean, those things happen quite a bit, and you never know if it's the one. You know, kind of vibe. So
I guess it's all what you're used to. The tornado's no big deal. If I went to California, ground shook, I've never dealt with that, so that'd freak me out.
I just look at people like trying to gauge their concern based on how I need to be acting.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man. So, you know, your parents, or your father's doing, you know, he's cutting up animals and serving them on a plate and shit like that. So what are you doing? Like, are you like, is there like a family lineage that he kind of has you come in and do things, or? Yeah,
well, what happened because he was so adamant about learning the American culture, we started going to stock car races and stuff, and then I started getting interested in race cars, and he'd buy me some model cars. Yeah. And so that kind of, he wanted us to learn American culture and learn that and not be behind as far as learning about baseball, because in Holland it's soccer, football they call it. So he's never known anything but that. Yeah. So we joined Little League, and we joined all kinds of stuff. But what really intrigued me, he worked with a guy named Jim Ackerson that raced sprint cars. Mm-hmm. So we started going to the sprint car races on Tuesday night and watch him. So that sparked my interest as far as cars, building models. I wanted to become a race car mechanic. Mm-hmm. So that's all I wanted to do. So here's where my story changes. Yeah. So that's all I talked about when I was a young boy. So when I was in high school, I was going to become.
Yeah, keep going. You're good.
I was going to go to wanted to get an auto mechanics class. So that's what I wanted to do. And then when I got there, a sophomore in high school, that's all I ever talked about since I was 10 years old.
For real?
So the auto mechanic shop was full, dude. You got to pick something else. You make okay grades, so you're really going to have to try to make a living with your hands. So you want to do something else? Yeah. Well, no, I want to become an auto mechanic. That's been my plan since I was like 9 years old. So
Yeah.
don't change. So sorry, it's full.
Oh, that's wild.
Oh, so now you can take cabinet shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. You can take drafting. Oh, that sounds interesting. Well, you can take this class called machine shop.
Mm-hmm.
What's that about? And this lady guidance counselor goes, I don't really know. I guess they work on machines and stuff. So I'm thinking, what's my options? She goes, one of those three. So I signed up for machine shop.
Yeah.
Went home and told my dad. I said, my dad goes, so how'd it go on your, selection of classes? Well, auto mechanics was full, so I'm going to take this thing called machine shop. He's like, what the fuck is that? I said, guess we'll figure it out next semester.
Yeah.
So I walked in the machine shop and seen lathes and Bridgeports. And when you're 15 years old, you don't realize how things are made.
Yeah.
You go to the tennis shoe store, you buy a tennis shoe. You don't know that it's built in a factory by some people and stuff. Well,
yeah.
I got educated really quick how things are made and got really sparked my interest. And then all of a sudden, I just got so passionate about it. And then I didn't know that I had this ability to understand the machine part of it. Then the auto mechanic class was coming over, and we were drilling out broken bolts and heads and blocks and stuff. So, like, they're coming to me. So within 3 weeks of machine shop, I didn't even have a driver's license yet. Mm-hmm. I was going to get a job at a machine shop like 3 blocks from my house.
Nice.
So the little freaking shit that I rode my bicycle, almost 16 years old, rode the bike in front of this big machine shop, kicked it down, wanted to put my application in. So it was probably pretty funny, the receptionist or whoever, this kid riding a freaking bicycle wants to go to a machine shop. So she got the owner, and the owner thought it was kind of funny, and he took me in his office, he interviewed me and said, I'll give you a job, dude, but you got to be 16. So you got a car? So yeah, so I was 16, and I started when I was 16 years old in this machine shop, O&F machine on the other side of Joplin, and I've been a machinist ever since, man.
What was your first jobs as far as in there? Are you more like porter kind of?
Well, it was the department with mills and drills, which was mostly tool makers, Bridgeports and stuff. So I started as an apprenticeship as being a tool maker, making fixtures and stuff, which was really unique. Instead of being a production machinist, loading a part, pushing a button. Yeah. You actually here's your material.
Yeah, so fixtures is basically the thing that you make to hold
the part exactly
that you're going to create. Okay.
Yeah, and it's only one. So you start from beginning to end of making this fixture and stuff. So I learned a lot from all these journeyman machines.
There's literally a design that you have to create to make the design that you first wanted to create.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was only 16 years old. And you're a sponge when you're 16.
Oh yeah.
And dude, they were paying me $1.85 an hour. I was freaking killing it. Yeah. I was like, I was pumping gas before, but that's how long it's been. It was $1.85 an hour. But
well, it's so. I mean, a common theme on this whole trip, especially going through the Midwest and talking to people that, I mean, you're the third shop that literally I've done that is machining. You know what I mean? So. With that being said, it's just like it's such a important thing that's like very much a part of our industry or every part of the world. I mean, you had shared some stories last night that like I guess your big break was in a completely different world of machining. I mean, as far as like in the poultry industry.
Exactly.
So like these skills, maybe it was the sprint cars and the race cars that kind of funneled you into this craft.
But, it definitely was. My interest just to the mechanical part of it. Here's another story. I was so mechanically inclined at 10 years old. My dad got a brand new Sears push mower. So I had to mow the lawn. When I got done with it, I took the whole freaking thing apart just to see how it worked. So after that, I put it together and got it working. He took me to the junkyard and got like 10 old lawnmowers. So you just fuck with that instead of fucking with my new shit, So I had he did feed my knowledge that I wanted to learn about mechanical stuff at an early age, and he kind of helped me with that for sure. But then the machining thing just became a natural phenomenon, dude. I can tell you how to hold that caliper bracket and how to manufacture it just like that. It's like this seed was always been in.
So was this kind of like the 70s mainly?
Yes, yeah.
So you're coming up in the 70s, and how long did you work under another shop before you started to branch out and do your own things. And what was like maybe the first machine you ever bought?
That machine right there, dude.
That one?
That one. These two machines, the engine lathe and the Bridgeport, I've had over 40 years.
Wow.
In my garage. I was 28 when I went on my own.
For real?
Yeah, because it's not that I wanted to get rich or anything, but I seen that I was making a lot of people a lot of money. They're just kind of tired of the politics of being, because as a young age, I got thrown into, like 18, I was foreman of that machine shop when I was 18 freaking years old. The guys that work under me were 40 or 50 years old.
Yeah, I bet they love that.
Oh, they did. It took a little while to understand it, but they respected me because I was good at it. I'm not bragging about myself, but I had this natural ability that obviously at 18, when you're being a foreman of a 100-man shop, it was pretty freaking overwhelming to me, you know. I just barely figure out how to be a dude at 18. And I'm telling 40, 50-year-old guys what the fuck to do, you know. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, I started on my own in my garage with those two pieces of equipment, and from there, I saved up enough money to buy my first CNC, and that's been 30-some years ago now. So
yeah, so we're talking about the 90s then, huh?
1990. My first day of business was April Fool's Day, 1990. Of all freaking times to start.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, you know, when you bought this first machine and you branched off on your own, what was what were you machining? Like, what was the product that you were solving?
It was interesting because I was building motorcycle parts already for some Harley guys around here.
Okay.
And one of the guys that I was building parts for was a tech or a technical engineer assistant at a big aerospace company here in town called Eagle Pitcher. So they had all this product they were having issues with as far as manufacturing and stuff. And me having this natural ability how to figure things out at 28, he came to me when I first got my first CNC that they build batteries for the manned space station and the Hubble telescope.
Okay.
And with that, there's all these close tolerances and real high-end, high-nickel concentrate 718 Inconel, and it's hard to machine, and it had to hold real precision deals to weld all this stuff together.
Yeah.
So I started figuring out how to make all these parts that they designed. They couldn't get people to make them.
Yeah.
So that was my first big
Okay.
deal into the aerospace part of it.
Yeah, I've heard like random stories from different people that have worked in kind of like that more high precision tech kind of thing, and even like there are powder coaters out there that work within that world that have to powder coat with such precision and mill thickness that's like, you know, it's insane. Like, because we think of powder coat, we got that big thick shit we got to fucking chase threads and stuff, and there's people out there that do it almost thicker than anodizing. I mean, anodizing is more of just a metal finish, but you know, there's just so much precision that goes into, especially anything going in the air. I mean, anything going in the air, pretty much.
Yeah,
you know?
What's really unique about that industry, like we were building parts for the THAAD missile project, and they test about 10,000 units, destroy them and stuff, and we have to build 10,000 prototypes, and the destructive metallurgy to figure out how strong this stuff is. Yeah. And to get to a point where it's finally an end product takes a lot of research and development and stuff. So, but it was really neat to get into the aerospace deal. It was very lucrative, but again, this business is capital intense. It takes the material that you buy is super fucking expensive, and then if you
to make $100,000, you're spending 50 to 60 sometimes.
Yeah, material. Then it takes you 2 months to process all these parts. Then it takes you 30 days to get paid. So you're cash flowing these big aerospace companies for 2 or 3 months. But it all worked out. You know, once you get ahead of itself, it'll just keep cash flowing every 30 days. Or
that makes
whatever.
sense.
Yeah. And then I got into the poultry industry too. Got some really neat products that we, believe this or not, we make a really cool product that picks the feathers off chickens. Yeah. It seems really crude, but there's just one plant just south of here that they process 52 million birds a day. That's just one fucking plant, dude. And there's hundreds of these all over the world in the United States. We sell our product in South America and in Canada and stuff. So, and I designed these bearing isolators because they have to wash this product down like 2 or 3 times a day. So I designed this plastic bearing isolator that pops on each side that protects the bearings from any kind of water contamination. And our competitors last about 8 weeks. We have a 15-month warranty. So, and very rarely do our deals even fail after 24 months. It's expensive, and it's all billet aluminum, And it's got some really neat pulleys on it instead of a V-belt type pulley where you really got to tighten the shit out of it, and that puts a lot of strain on the bearing. I come up with a cog tooth type deal, double serpentine belt, off my race cars experience, like off blowers, off supercharged cars. So there's hardly any tension on the bearings, and these things last for freaking ever. So that was kind of a big deal.
Well, that's like everything. I mean, when it comes to design or comes to creativity, it's like the more that you can pull from other areas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because every different genre of like something, or every different facet, or what word just every different industry is kind of, if you're in that industry, you kind of have blinders on to everything else.
Exactly.
So if you have these other interests in automotive and aerospace, then you can actually apply all these different kind of theories and ideas into, into this to kind of figure shit out, which is what you did.
This product I do, it serpentines to 8 bearing housings. So it has to have a spring-loaded idler.
Yeah.
So working on Chevrolets and Fords, my design on that idler pulley is the same thing that they use on a 4-cylinder Ford, because I think it's a pretty simple deal, figured it out. Yeah. So I just kind of like took that idea and put it on my poultry deal.
Yeah.
Because I knew, because it was automotive, it worked for Ford for 200,000 miles. Surely it's going to last on this friggin' chicken plucking thing for 24 months.
So. Exactly. So what do you, you get this first CNC, and then you kind of start to make some progress and make some income with the aerospace stuff, and then that bleeds into the poultry industry. And your passion for, when does your passion for motorcycles come into play?
It actually was younger. We got dirt bikes when we were young kids, Hodaka Super Rats and stuff. So as I turned 15 to 16, I was getting on the street bikes and the Sportsters and stuff like that. So that's where it kind of intrigued me as far as two-wheel stuff. But I've been riding dirt bikes since I was probably 10 years old.
Was there a big, in the 70s, was there a big motorcycle presence here in Joplin?
There was, and what's really bizarre about it, when I first got my first stuff, I started doing machining cases and stuff for a couple of club guys around here, and there's a famous guy called Crazy Frank that had a motorcycle Harley Davidson deal.
Yeah. Is he the original Crazy Frank?
Yeah, he's the original Crazy Frank.
Nice.
And so he'd come to me, and he didn't have a Bridgeport or nothing, so I'd bore cases with him, or put case savers and stuff, and did a lot of car stuff too. But the motorcycle deal become from all these guys coming. There was presidents of club. Mike Strait is a famous guy around here, and he's a freaking kind of a nutcase, and he had all these super hot, fast Harley Davidsons and stuff, and that's why I really got interested in understanding how a Harley motor works and stuff like that. So it all kind of started from dirt bikes, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And I guess when you have a skill that's that lends yourself as a need for certain people, you're going to find your way into the center of that world, if you will. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what was another story about the whole biker thing, so I was doing all these machine cases and fly cutting pistons and valve notching and stuff, so they came to me with some stuff, and it was kind of gun related.
Yeah.
So he said, "Can you modify this and do this?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So I did that, and then another guy from that club would go, "Hey, Mike said you can do this," so I did that, and I was, yeah, that's cool.
You're just making their guns automatic?
Yeah, that's what the fuck I was doing. Like the fourth guy come and goes, "Man, you're kind of fucking putting your life out there." So what am I doing? Well, you're making them fully automatic, dude. It's like, I don't want to do this no more.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened, man. Yeah, it was crazy.
You're gonna be on the ATF's radar real quick.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
So you. Through the 90s, what was kind of your main gig? Was it just continuing to pursue all these other areas with aerospace and stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually ended up, a company came to me, and they had this hydraulic lifter in the oil field industry they were having issues with, and they couldn't get any good quality, and it's a Cosworth type motor that's prevalent in Texas, and Louisiana, and Northern Africa, and so they had this lifter thing that was just failing. And they came to me and said, like, figure this out. Well, and then I came up with this little leak tester that would actually measure the ID and the OD of two things with liquid. So I put a weight on it, and the liquid would pass in the bore, past the piston, and that had to be an exact size for these to deal. So when I put this calibrated oil in it and put this weight, it would compress that lifter. I figured out the tolerancing, and that was kind of a big deal to me.
Okay.
I still make that lifter to this day, so I got real diversified.
Yeah.
The poultry, the aerospace, the hydraulic lifter. Then I did reverse engineering for a couple of big, and still do. Like they'll have a product that's made in their printing presses or their bottling company that's made in France or England. Like, it's not working. Can you make this? Actually, sometimes I reproduce it because it takes 12 weeks to get from France or from Canada. So that's 4 things I'm into other than the motorcycle industry.
I mean, you got a couple buildings here.
Yeah.
And, we haven't done a walkthrough yet because I got here a little bit late last night. But, you just have like you just, over these years, you start adding more machines. And
I got 12 now.
12 CNCs?
Yeah.
That's
a big investment, dude.
Yeah. What's the lifespan on the CNC machine?
I just traded all my stuff. I'm kind of like Bare Knuckle Paul. I was a total Mazak shop, which is a machine tool that's made in Japan. And those machines lasted me 30 freaking years.
Right.
And the first one I bought in 1990 was still as accurate as the day that I sold it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. I really take care of them. When I got good machinists and they didn't wreck them or something like that.
Yeah. So when in the 90s, when you start jumping into the CNCs, what's computer programming like? I mean, are you kind of dialing things in on the board?
And when I evolved from being a tool and die maker, they started getting CNC machines. So I was interested in that. So then I learned how to program.
Okay.
And back in the day, all it was a drafting table with your trigonometry calculator, and that's how I learned to program. I mean, I had to type each line. There's G codes, like Justin from my machinist note. GOO means rapid. So you rapid to a point. And you tell the feed, which is GO1. We hand typed all that shit. I mean, we manipulated the machine. If we had to make an arc, we'd break that arc into like 50 little bitty lines. We'd do X, Y, Z to make an arc. But now, with the technology of Mastercam and SolidWorks, my programmer now, I was a really good programmer, and I taught Toby how to programmer. But now the student has advanced more than the teacher. How to use oh shit! I couldn't even touch his world because he can. The tool paths that he do, just like to make the swing arm, is tens of thousands of pieces of data to manipulate not only a simple 2-axis deal, but he can machine stuff in 4-axis stuff, which would take me hours just to manipulate 5 or 6 moves. He manipulates 100,000 moves in literally seconds.
Well, that's just a test of like every type of progression in
the technology
and everything we do. Because you look at some of the basic machining that was probably needed for back then, and I say basic not as an insult, but as a compared to what you were probably cutting then to this, it's got to be different, right?
Oh, it's way different. To exactly like I said earlier, just to make a circle. You had to divide that circle into 360 little increments. Now you just tell the thing to go, just make a circle this diameter. It's 2 lines instead of 600 lines. Well,
when you start breaking things down, I mean, if you think about like how when people make arches, like archways and like architecture and things like that, you got square objects that create these deals with just very minute angles,
exactly,
right? And it creates some. So I imagine the toolpath is going to be be very similar. You know what I mean?
Well, what it was exactly like you're saying. Back in the 70s and 80s, that's what it was. It was a manipulation of little micro lines. But now, because of the technology and the servo motors that drive CNC machines, it's nonstop. They can actually make the 2 motors work together and make a perfect circle. It's nonstop. We were actually stopping at all these different points. The technology and the Mastercam, which is super expensive. I mean, it's like $40,000-$50,000 for
program.
this. Oh, the program, and then we can do, like the swing arm, we can do stress analysis, real life stress analysis. I can capture the swing arm on one deal, take a pointer and push it like this, and they'll tell us it'll turn red which is the weak point. It's within 2% accuracy. The same thing that Formula One teams do. They simulate stress analysis. Back in the day, if we were building this swing arm in the 80s or 90s, we'd take it over the hydraulic press and clamp it and like put 6,000 pounds on and say, oh, fuck, it busted. But it's all computer simulated.
And if the computer knows the tensile strength of the type of metal, then it can kind of
and we can change this whole design. Toby's real good at, like, we knew the weight of this when we started. And just like a switch, he can turn this aluminum into metal or take this and turn it into the titanium and do a stress analysis on it, the weight analysis. It's like that. I mean,
do they have like billet titanium? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, we machine a lot of titanium here too for the aerospace stuff. Yeah.
How is that? How is a billet titanium versus? I mean, obviously a lot more expensive, but versus an aluminum.
Well, the technical part of it, there's what they call surface feed. How fast you can machine something.
Yeah.
Like aluminum, you can machine at probably 3,000 surface feet, 3,000 feet per minute.
Okay.
Now, titanium can only be machined at 27 inches a minute with the same type of tooling.
Yeah.
Because it's so
just
dense.
Harder.
It's very super abrasive and hard. That's the big deal. You have to slow everything down.
Yeah. So what about like steel? Like, you know, some of these bungs and pieces you were showing me. Is that a thing too? Having like an ingot, I guess.
Yeah, it all comes in bar stock. All the material comes in bars and stuff.
Okay.
Every day they unload like this piece of. This side of the swing arm is a 5 by 5 square piece of aluminum that we saw in the pieces. It all comes in bar stock at various sizes and different types of. Even steel comes in 50 different variances.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Chromoly, like we make the axle out of, super strong. It's got a lot of carbon in it, and it's tubing and all. And then the stainless steel nuts are made out of 303 stainless, which is a free machining stainless, so it's not super hard to machine, but it's still got the versatility of not rusting and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like I said. I just you know, not being from this world, I dabble in liquids.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah.
You know, like I just never knew if there was like there had to be, because I would look at, but I guess you would use more traditional type of milling on, like, say a brick of steel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what's really evolved too, talk about technology of just software and programming. Like an end mill, you know what an end mill is on a Bridgeport? It's a fluted type drill.
Okay.
The technology of just the spiral or the twist and the material on the end mill, that technology has advanced machining too.
Okay.
The tool itself, as far as the type of carbide, the twist of the flute like a drill, and then the multiple flutes, like used to be an end mill would have 2 flutes like a drill, or 4 flutes. Now they have 7 and 9 flute type deal. The technology is to form that carbide into something that's really high efficiency and lasts a long time. That's a big advantage in the machining technology in the last 5 or 6 years too.
Yeah, man, there's just a lot to it, but it's like, you know, last night we were driving back from the restaurant, we were just talking about how at some point in time these, you know, 3D printers are going to be able to do this stuff out of, you know.
Yeah, instead of buying bar stock 5 years from now that comes in deal, I'll be buying in powder.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to be cost efficient, except the printer deal hasn't been, it's not efficient as far as speed yet.
Yeah.
For instance, if I have this billet housing I'm making for the poultry, it starts at a 5-inch aluminum, and it starts at, I think, 13 pounds. I can take it and machine it down to a bearing housing, which is I bore the inside, machine it down, leave a flange. I can literally remove all that material in 5 minutes.
Oh, shit.
So then if you have aluminum powder and 3D, try to print it, it will probably take an hour and a half to 3D print this thing.
Okay.
So the efficiency isn't there yet as far as the speed.
Yeah. Have you seen those like videos where they were like 3D printing houses and stuff in some areas?
And cement and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of rudimentary at this point, but I mean, if they can start printing houses,
yeah,
you know, that are, you know, probably not going to be as bad as some people have. I mean, it might help solve some of the other problems in the world, you know, as far as homelessness and stuff, or shelter at least.
What's really advanced to 3D printing and manufacturing is you can actually start making a product. So again, not to talk about Paul all the time, but Mark, Nine Finger Fabrication, he's got a product line that's 3D printed. 5 years from now, he couldn't have done that. But now you can actually make a product that's very useful. He's pretty ingenious because he's a mechanic and said, okay, I need something to hold these rods. He knows. But within a half hour, he's drawn something on SolidWorks.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about 3D printing, he doesn't have to make fixtures like I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
He organically, it looks like a plant growing off the bottom of that base, you know, and then within 10 minutes, he's got a product to sell. And at a pretty low cost as far as capital investment, a 3D printer is probably way less than $5,000.
Who was the guy that was making the run-out tool that everybody was buying, the orange one that had like a milk racing or something like that. You remember that?
I don't remember that.
He was just, because fueling would have a run-out tool.
Oh, yeah. No.
And then he had made this one that was it was 3D printed, but it still had the dial, and then it had all the holes for the different motors. And it's like a $100 product versus a $300 or $400 product.
Yeah. If I was making something, not that I ever would compete against Bare Knuckle Paul guys, but to take that same technology, instead of 3D print it, make it out of aluminum, it would take me 20 minutes at a $5 piece of aluminum to make that thing that he's probably got pennies in, but he's innovative too. It takes
there's that part of it, yeah.
You have to be innovative to make that $5,000 investment to return on your deal, and he's done a real good. And there's other industries like the bicycle industry that does. Well, I got a carbon fiber 3D printer.
Oh, you do?
I do. What's really cool about it, we use it to make like custom chuck jaws on our lathes. Instead of stopping production on the lathe and making chuck jaws that actually hold a particular shape and part, we can 3D print it offline.
How do you print carbon fiber when it's a weave?
It's that strong. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Because a 3D printer is doing the same thing.
Oh,
it's laying down a 5,000th piece of plastic or carbon fiber, and it'll change directions and goes the other way.
Oh, okay.
So it's weaving it also, and we actually have two heads. We can have carbon fiber and any other kind of plastic too that will heat it together. Or Kevlar.
That's what I was
thinking. So it can
yeah.
combine the two. And what's really cool about 3D printing, it's not solid. If you blow it up and look at it, it's like a honeycomb, like a beehive.
Yeah, very porous, yeah.
Yeah, real porous, which saves you material, but it's still strong.
Yeah. Trust me, I had my run-in with carbon fiber when I was 2004. I took a job, 2004 or 2005. I took a job for like 6 months making race car bodies.
Yeah.
Like taking a mold off of a whole car and then chopping it and stretching it to turn it into a carbon fiber, basically outer shell that they would put over a wire framed, chassis.
Yeah.
And I made one body, and I'm like, this was a great experience.
Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah.
Just vacuum bagging and every day coming home with like matted up pants from all the resins and stuff and itching. And I was like, I can't do this, man.
Yeah. When I built that FXR, I bought carbon fiber fenders from Custom Design Studios, Kurt Taylor.
Yeah.
And when I took the bagger deal and cut it up, because I got the little, like you're talking about, it's like fiberglass. Yeah. Then I didn't want to breathe it. Yeah. So then I was wearing a mask and stuff, because I don't know nothing about it,
Yeah, that's kind of the scary thing about it is that you never know. Like when you're young, you're not thinking about when you're 50, so you're just like, fuck it, you know what I mean?
I'm painting with that mask.
Yeah, I'm like got a bandana on because it looks cooler, you know?
What was that deadly shit they used to, Imron?
Imron?
Back in the day.
I think it's all pretty bad for you, but I think the main one that nowadays is like you want to avoid is anything with catalyst in it. So anything that you put some type of hardener in. So I'm guilty. There's plenty of times where I'll be airbrushing and I'm not wearing a mask and I'm right there. I'm definitely breathing it, but it's I don't know that I think that mask would take too long for me to get acclimated to it to where I can not feel uncomfortable in working with it,
Well, the same thing as a machinist. We're supposed to wear safety glasses all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, I'm sure Justin and Paul and any of the machinist guys they aren't wearing the freaking safety glasses, and we're sitting there with our face and something that'll break and be like a freaking, bullet going through your eyeball.
I like playing Russian roulette with cutoff wheels.
Yeah. It's the same as running a lathe or a bridge porch, man. Sometimes you'll grab your part and a part come flying out of a friggin' vise or somewhere.
Yeah, that would be scary.
Yeah.
When it comes to heavy machinery, I usually I'm a little, because I'm not around it as much. I'm a lot more mindful and careful, if that makes sense. But air tools, I'll take an air hammer all over the place. I remember air hammering like shit apart in my shop whenever we were doing the construction for the studio.
Yeah,
just like in there with a crowbar. I'm like, man, I got a tool for this. It's just get it done real quick. So that's cool, man. So I imagine that throughout the 90s, like the things start to do well for you, and at the time too, the motorcycle custom world is starting to really. It's always been around, but it really starts to emerge.
Yeah, it starts becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
It's on television every night. You got Jesse James and Biker Build-Offs and OCC and all that stuff, and I'm already riding a bike and stuff. And then with that, a little bit of the story too, I become a Jesse James fan.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying this chopper dog freaking deal.
Yeah.
And then like-minded people, and then I get I already had a West Coast chopper that I built, and I was intrigued by it. I actually had my first West Coast chopper. It doesn't look like something coming out of his shop, but I built one because you could buy a frame for $995.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
I bought it from a Harley dealer in Springfield, Missouri. Brought it home and what is this West Coast chopper deal? Look on the internet and there's this chopper dog deal. So I joined that, and then again it was that's where I really got serious about building my own shit, because I always wanted to build my own type of West Coast chopper type bike.
Yeah. So you get that first bike, and then you kind of immerse yourself in the whole culture of the chopper stuff. I mean, did you have an eye for the chopper style?
I did.
Prior to that,
I did. Yeah.
Where do you think that emerged from?
Because in our neighborhood, we had a club that lived at the end of the block called the Brotherhood.
Okay.
And they had
pretty basic name, but I get it.
Yeah. It was.
Hey, I got it, guys.
Yeah.
Brotherhood.
Yeah. It was and they were freaking bikers, dude.
Yeah.
They'll
probably kick my ass for sure.
Yeah. Well, the funny story about that, we lived on a terrace, which is a T-type shape, and it goes to each end to an end of the block end. So they lived at the end of the block, a catty corner from us. So there was 10 guys living there with 5 chicks all the time, and friggin' Harleys, and friggin' sitting outside, and they would be in the front yard drinking beer, and their bikes starting up, and of course the chick magnets they were and stuff like that. And we got in trouble one time because it was a gravel road and we were throwing rocks at them and stuff because we were just being stupid kids. And they started cussing at us, and my aunt went over there and scolded them. And so there was an agreement. We wouldn't throw rocks and they wouldn't cuss and stuff like that. And that's where really it started, because I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
They wore freaking patches and stuff, and they had girls on the back and loud, and they were 1%ers, dude. There was a shit pile load of them living in this house at the end of the block. And that's why I really freaking got those guys are really cool.
Yeah. Fringe, living on the fringe of society. That's definitely more. It's a better place to be, you know what I mean? So what you catch that, and I imagine this is when you're a young kid and you're seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and then
I was probably 12, 14 years old.
Yeah, and I feel like those memories burn in your head, you know what I mean?
They do.
And
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you you stumble, I imagine you already had a Harley or something at this point, right?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of was looking for the next step in your evolution of being in motorcycling. So
Yeah, I was machining, and I always was machining derby covers and some other little custom aluminum stuff for the local guys and stuff. So I wanted to start building my own custom bike. So I bought this West Coast Chopper CFL from a Harley dealership that had it sitting on the top of the showcase for $995. So
nice.
I took my $1,000 up there, threw it over my shoulder, and brought it home. I guess
now what?
Now, and you're easily overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I mean, shit, dude. It's I'm into the race car deal too. I still build tube adapters and shock mounts and stuff for the race car deal, and people that buy dragster kits and stuff think they can build a freaking dragster, but you have to have a frame jig, and there's a lot you have to learn how to weld and stuff like that, and that's where the will of wanting to build something cool for this West Coast chopper. I'm going to build my own shit.
Yeah,
because it was expensive to buy a West Coast chopper.
So it was just a frame. It wasn't a roller or anything.
No,
like
it
that?
was a frame. $995. You could buy the frame for $995. You can buy another option was a set of hell-bent pipes for $199.
Nice.
Yeah,
inflation has taken place.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, and Jesse built some shit. It was upsized pipes, sweeping and big angles and stuff, and it was a hell of a buy for $1,000. Yeah, you got all kinds of shit with it. You got a tank, you got the axle plates, you got the battery mounts, and all that stuff. So it was.
So this frame had a tank on it.
Yeah,
okay,
the
that's
billing
good.
tank and all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and they had all these build-on things. You could buy port controls, kickstands. There was all kinds of options you could do. But basically, what I got was the frame with a tank, and kind of went from there.
So did you have any other experience in like welding and things like that at this point, or were you mainly just on the machines?
I was getting into cars and the dune buggies and stuff, and I was building my own disc brakes kits for dune buggies. I already had my Bridgeport, my engine lathe, and I was building these dune buggy, taking disc brakes off Volkswagens and adapting them to the back of dune buggy, so you had turn brake you could turn on a dime. So that was my first little product deal that I could actually design and sell for $499, just to local guys.
Yeah.
So I had a little plasma torch, and I built the little magnetic thing that would burn out my patterns. I built my own magnetized my stylus that would stay on the pattern and stuff.
Okay.
I built the whole freaking thing, that's where it really started at, is the dune buggy type deal, and then evolved into the motorcycle deal. So the chopper thing. And then trying to figure out what to do with this frame. So I knew it was a West Coast chopper, but I didn't know it was Jesse James. I never heard of this dude before. I just wanted to build a chopper because
it was a thing.
It was a thing.
Yeah. What year was this? You remember?
Probably 2003.
Okay.
Something like that.
Definitely, I think 03, and that's when the first Motorcycle Mania came out, I believe.
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit before that.
Yeah, well, the timing, I don't know the exact timing like you said, but when I bought the frame, like 2 months later, Motorcycle Mania 1 come out.
Okay, yeah.
And then I went down the friggin' rabbit hole, dude. I'm like everyone else that watched that show and stuff, That's why I started finding, who's this Jesse James? What's this Chopper Dog deal?
Yeah.
And then I got on Chopper Dogs, and there was like-minded people, Brad Barnes, James Carter, Cody Childress, Jason Hallman. We all was like, we called ourselves nut swingers back there. Jesse James freaking got a cold. We knew it 5 minutes after he freaking got a cold,
Yeah.
But it was really cool that he actually talked to us and stuff. The celebrity that was just a celebrity for 2 months.
Yeah.
He was sitting there and giving me shit just like you and me giving shit. He was just a common dude, but he was a celebrity, dude.
Yeah. I mean, then celebrity held a higher regard because now, with social media now, we can all kind of get attention.
Oh, yeah.
To get attention back in the 90s and early 2000s, the world, other entities had to give you that attention, right?
Oh, definitely.
He had the pedigree as far as like what he had built and things like that, but it was TV, which we don't own TV, so we can't make our own shit happen there, right?
Right.
And all this stuff starts happening, and it works, and it's that's 2003. That was my about to be 2004 January is when I walked into the motorcycle industry.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these things already existed and it was coming out, but I don't think I really did a deep dive of falling in love with it until I started really this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I had loved motorcycles, but going back and looking at for instance the Motorcycle Mania, watching that again, and then the biker build-offs, and it was kind of hard to find it for a while. I think Motorcycle Mania right now, the only way you can get it is a DVD.
Exactly.
And so I don't even have a DVD player now. You know what I mean? So
no, I don't either.
But
and there was quite a span between Motorcycle Mania 1 and 2, and actually I think 1 it took a long time, like 4 or 5 months after it first aired.
Yeah.
To get a DVD.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we watched
and
it.
And 1 was with Indy and Larry, right? When they rode to Sturgis or something like that.
Yeah. Sturgis.
And then 2 was when they did the. Was 2 when because there's 3 of them, right?
Yes.
And so there's the Kid Rock one, and then him and his old lady going to
getting married and divorced, all that drama.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether 1 or 2, but
it's in there. Yeah,
it's in there. And then he made the history of the chopper too.
Yes, Bare Knuckle Paul was telling me about that, and I've seen it before, but I haven't seen that yet.
Well, what was really cool, and I'll give a shout out to Iris Rich. He's the if you watch the history of Chopper, he built the CFL, and I go see Iris Rich every time I go to Sturgis. He was a Chopper dog too.
Okay.
But this dude is called Shamrock Fabrication.
Okay, I've heard of that. Yeah.
He has forgot more than you and me will ever freaking know. He knows the bearing size of a 67 shovel head or the spoke size. He's a super knowledgeable guy, real super humble. He lived in Colorado for a minute, and he was always giving information on chopper dogs and stuff. But he's just moved to Sturgis here the last 2 years.
That's cool.
So that's where his home base is. And all those chopper dog guys that stay at the house together, we went and see him. I'm in contact with him. But he's such a humble guy. And he knows everybody that was anybody in the industry. I don't care if it's ball from Easy Rider or C.J. Allen. They were buddies like you and me were buddies. The guy that actually started this industry. He's a.
You know, I wonder if, you know, this is a wild thought, but I wonder if with the chopper thing becoming as big as it did in the early 2000s, the access to chat rooms or groups in like Chopper Dogs, and I was a part of certain ones in my world as well.
Yeah.
If that allowed us to connect to these hobbies in a way that prior to it you would almost just have to be a club guy or something like that.
I totally agree, because it was first exposure when the forum,
the
platform came to deal. That was like, what is this?
I think that's the first thing for some of us more, you know, tweakers of automotive and mechanics. Like when the internet first came out, there wasn't a lot to do that was interesting to certain people, right?
No, there wasn't.
And then when the forums came out and you found like-minded people within, I remember the first forum I ever got in was about Nissan 240s.
Yeah, I was in the RX-7, so I was in the RX-7 forum, you know.
You got to be a machinist to be in one of those cars.
Dude, I got stories about that. I actually ended up in Dallas, Texas with old Chris from Rotary Performance, built my motor.
Oh, so he had was Chris the guy that used to be in this garage in like Grand Prairie?
Yes.
I've spent the night at that dude's house so much in my life.
He's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
He can, when I first bought my RX-7, I bought it from a guy in Springfield that was super anal about it. You know, it was like at 50,000 miles, and it was just pristine. And of course, everyone went down the rabbit hole, Fast and Furious. Like, I gotta have freaking something, you know. It was kind of.
Did you do a 3 or a 2?
2.
2. I feel like the 2s were always like lent themselves to be a little bit more aggressive
and reliable.
Yeah.
So I had Chris build the motors. I started taking it apart, and it was like, then the rotary is very simple, but it's simple but very complicated.
Yeah.
So I took it apart, got overwhelmed, got a hold of Chris, and he built me a motor. He dyno tuned it. 637 horsepower to the back tire.
Yeah, that's
big
wild.
T78 Garrett turbo, you know, freaking cat rear end and suit hood. I mean, I went freaking deep into it.
Those things they were fucking fast, man. It just, you know.
I run 10:04 and a quarter mile with that freaking thing.
Damn.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get those apex seals to just not blow. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
you know?
And he machined the rotors to do the 3mm apex seals, you know, and then it always consumes oil.
Yeah.
And people didn't realize that, and they went to he had some special bean oil freaking thing you pour in your gas. They would have made the apex seals go. But I got real paranoid about it, because by the time I got into this thing and done with it, I probably had $20,000 to $25,000 in it, you know.
Yeah, quickly.
I was still, that's still a lot of money even to me to this day.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this thing's going to blow up, because you know as well as I do, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So once I got it built,
in front of you.
once I got it built and drag raced it a couple of times, I was like paranoid about it.
Yeah,
I just want to get rid of it.
Same. I never went too big of a motor or too big of that. And I was in a position to be able to buy more than one car, so I was drag racing my fucking daily driver, you know. Which is, you know, everybody, the older people laughed at the time, but it was just the only thing I could do, you know. But yeah, that you know, that world it exploded after Fast and Furious, and I know that so many people look at that movie that are, especially the more traditional hot rod guys, think it was
kind of cartoonish.
It spoke to, you know, my generation.
Me too, dude.
You know?
I was into it.
And those cars had more. I guess maybe for you it might have been more interesting because they weren't just big and fucking. It was like there was technology in it.
The RX-7, not only could it go fast in a straight line, it could go around a corner.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that was intriguing to me. You know, still, someday I'll own a Porsche sports car deal, because that was intriguing to me too. The way it would handle. You could put coilovers on it, not only go straight, but you could scare the shit out of somebody going around a corner. And you could. Well, then drifting came into the whole deal. Yeah. So kicking it sideways, and a 637-pound. That car weighed 2,340 pounds, and 600 horsepower. So you kick it around the corner, you could freaking drift and stuff, you know. I'm not that good of a driver. My programmer, Toby Brown, he's a sprint car champion.
Okay.
That fucking guy can fucking drive the wheels off fucking anything, you know. So I knew I was going to get hurt in that thing and probably blow it up and be $10,000 in a hole. Yeah. Again, you were in the Honda world. You can build a Honda motor for $4,000 or $5,000, I would think. But a rotary.
Yeah, rotaries are.
It's like $10,000 every freaking time, and they're going to blow up.
And the other thing about Hondas, and they started doing LSV techs, they started like using other blocks and other heads from the Acuras and all these things. And I was a Nissan guy, so I mean we had plenty of stuff out there, but the motors that didn't come in the cars were the ones we had to import in. Yeah. And so that's where I got into it, is kind of facilitating some of those clips from California to Dallas to sell and stuff. So but yeah, so you're dealing with this in the early 2000s, and then the bike thing kicks off. Was the bike thing like, I'm going to lean into this more because of
the West Coast deal?
Well, the West Coast deal, but like also like, well, I'd already kind of done this import thing. Yeah. And I don't know that I want to just
it was
throw the money down the drain.
Anyone that's in the cars versus motorcycle, the thing you have to look at too is the square footage in your garage. Yeah, yeah. So if you got 2 cars, you can literally have 8 motorcycles. Yeah. And that's where I come to. And I was freaking tired of crawling underneath freaking cars and over fenders and shit. You know as well as I do. Yeah. It's like, it gets freaking cold.
Hurts your lower back, your neck.
Freaking clutch and transmission is like, this is fucking work, dude. I mean, a lot of freaking work.
In a sense, kind of like the import car. For me, the import car shit was like my equivalent to the chopper thing. Like always working on it. Yeah. Always, going out to enjoy it, but then having to get towed home. Yeah. It was wild.
I did the midget deal. That's where I met Toby from. I raced midgets for 3 years in northern Oklahoma and stuff, and it was the same freaking thing. I was looking for some kind of motorsport identity for myself, because I kind of jumped around from dune buggies, got into dirt midgets for 3 years, and so that takes cubic dollars and not cubic inches.
So do you think that, going back to chopper dogs, do you think that kind of regurgitating what I said a while ago, that probably was more of a catalyst to stick you into motorcycles?
Yeah, I think so too.
Because you found a community that because that's the thing. It's like, if you have to find your community within your community, sometimes you can find it's hard.
It's super hard.
But when you have this one thing that everybody's drawn to, then everybody's already kind of like-minded. And that's how we work on Instagram, and that's why so many of us have found each other, because of that one interest.
I never thought of it by that, but you analyzed it perfectly, because I do believe that now that I have someone to talk to every night. Yeah. And Cody lived in Texas.
Yeah, went too far.
Yeah, and Brad lived in Tennessee. And there was buddies, I got buddies still to this day that live in Australia. Yeah. Mick Dundee, Michael, and Paul, and then like Paul Michael out of Wisconsin. Yeah.
Broccoli
Paul. He's a good friend of mine, you know. And we could talk. I didn't have to talk to the guy in Main Street Joplin, because he didn't give a fuck about my chopper. Yeah. But Paul did. Brad did. Cody did. So I never analyzed it like that, but that's what sparked me. Yeah. Every night, instead of going to the bar like we did last night, I could freaking get on. And you know what else I could do? I could talk to fucking Jesse James. Yeah. Like, what the fuck do you think about this fucking kickstand? How do you do that? And he would say, like, well, you do this and that. He was a big deal of that deal. He was on there every night giving us shit and actually giving us inspiration to be like him, But every once in a while, we'd step over the boundaries with him, and he'd scold us like his fucking kids, There's famous stories about, especially Cody Childress, of a bike that he built,
Oh yeah, the one he's told me about that on the podcast.
Yeah, it was like, fuck. We were like, fuck you, Jesse James. Not that I would say it to this day, but we were, taking up for a buddy Cody. He fucking built a badass bike, but he didn't like it. It was too close to home for him, And we were so proud of Cody that he did something like that, and inspired. And then we get to download pictures. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we could see that Cody was doing this, and Brad was doing this, and I was doing this, and a guy from Australia. But you're exactly right. I never thought about that, but that did spark its interest that was never in society before. That forum-type platform did.
It allows people to connect on such a hyper-focused level of what they're into, I mean, you think about all the different trends and cultures, like you before it would be just California, because they had all those like-minded people in the same area, so that you could form these amazing bonds and friendships and clubs and things like that out of it. But then
the density of the population there, you didn't have to go 2 miles. You could find 15 guys. But you're nailed to that. That's what actually made me stay with it. Yeah, because there was other like-minded people. I've
always said this within recent times is that in order to really truly enjoy whatever the hobby is, the people have to be as equally enjoyable as what you're doing.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the solo endeavor is fun and it's good for kind of retrospective and kind of analyzing yourself, but ultimately, like, the joy of being around people and experiencing things with like-minded people is
it's priceless.
It's priceless, man.
It is. It's a tight-knit community.
Yeah.
And it was so tight-knit, that was 20-some years ago.
Yeah.
But I talked to Brad on the regular. I know about Cody's brother and his club shit, and stuff.
Yeah.
We're very, very tight. And it's a weird bond.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really strange bond how all these people came together because they...
But let me ask you this, because this is something I talk about with my friends a lot, and I think maybe you can attest to this. 20 years ago when you guys were sitting in your underwear at a desktop computer talking shit to each other and also becoming friends, did you ever sit back and think, you know what, guys, one day this is going to be our industry, and we're going to be sitting here going, man, remember where we were?
Yeah.
And now Booster Brad's here, and
I'm here,
and
Cody.
James Carter's over there killing it with what he does, and all these guys have like carved out a piece of our industry's history. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like I do. I try to tell my friends all the time, like, especially like King Tony and Justin, my machinist, and we're kind of we're old, but we're kind of the younger guys coming up in business.
Yeah, it was really weird, that common thread that we just like West Coast Choppers, but then we took our own identity and made our own life out of that, off that base. You have to look back at all the successful people in that little club. It's pretty freaking mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It really is. But I don't know if we actually were driven by each other or that was always in us independently. But I know this. It was sparked from that unity of that community that I seen Cody do something and I'd do it. And maybe I sparked Brad to do something, and then James. It was really a unique, very unique community. Yeah. But it is pretty odd that of the 30 or 40 people that went in there, 10 of them are leaders in the industry right now, and it's like we don't talk on the regular, but we talk enough to know what everyone's doing. Yeah. Well, Brad knows what I'm doing because of the product line and the industry, but it is an odd type of ratio of people that come out of that little club that are successful in it, but we were passionate about it, dude.
I mean, you also, if you think about it, you had kind of a peek behind the curtain that, at the time, not many people had. I mean, the only way they got a glimpse into that is through magazines. And, I guess I can attest to, and this just is going to sound super fucking like off, but I hang out with a lot of people that are not industry. Yes. And a lot of the people that have come along and become friends, like Tony and Justin, are they've been around here for a long time, but they haven't quite been in the industry as long as I have. Yeah. So, like, I'm always kind of showing them, like, yo, this is kind of what's going on. This is what it was like. Yeah. And helping them. And they help me, too, obviously. But, this just sounds stupid to say, but maybe in the same sense, like, I've been trying to help bridge the gap the way Jesse James bridged the gap for you guys within y'all's group. Yeah. Because you guys were all friends. But he was the connection to the industry that kind of peeled back the curtain a little bit to let you know what was going on, what it felt like when he was pissed, when he was happy, when he was, all these things, right? Yeah. So, like I said, it's. I'm not trying to compare myself to Jesse James or anything like that. I'm just saying.
I get your analogy. Well, I guess at the hypothesis of your suggestion is it is about community. Yeah. I think that's the basis of what drove Chopper Dogs and what drives any industry. Just like having the availability to talk to Kurt at Baker Transmissions. Yeah. He's a common freaking dude, and he's an industrial freaking giant. He's
a wild man, too.
Oh, he's freaking crazy. But he's super accessible.
Like, was he in Chopper Dogs and all that stuff back in the day?
No, he wasn't. But I remember the first time I met him, I was bringing my FXR to the FXR show the first year. Yeah. And he was at the registration desk just doing something. And he was he's a little guy, and he looked at my FXR, and within 2 minutes, he was underneath it, like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? He was really intrigued about what I'd built and stuff. And I knew who he was. He didn't know who I was, but the accessibility to someone that's a leader in the industry, just like Jesse or Baker Transmissions and stuff, it is about community. I think that's your analogy. That you are building a community for sure.
And that's a try. I mean, like I said, just like our conversation last night with what's his name again?
Cody Haggard.
You know, there's I like to say that I've had success with like finding people that are really rad and then exploiting them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I've been inspired by so many people that that are just friends, you know what I mean? And that have different roles within this motorcycle industry now. And some of them are not even really in it anymore, but they're, they're still connected and whatnot. But yeah, like I just wonder, like doing these podcasts and doing these ones like with you, who has a lot more history versus someone that might have found bikes 4 years ago that still has made an impact within 4 years. Yeah. You just got to get drug in between so many different like I guess maybe I get intrigued by like, how did we get here?
Definitely.
how did this from this documented time evolve to here? Because before the real chopper boom of 2000, there's not a lot of stories, there's not a lot of coverage of what the motorcycle industry looked like in the 90s. No, the 90s. Like, I mean, you had magazines, but you can pretty much, like, there's so many people still involved with motorcycling today that was starting in 2004, 2002 because of Chopper Dogs or Motorcycle Mania or all these things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but then you go, well, what about when Jesse James started? What was his thing?
Yeah.
Like what was, and that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast is before, those stories won't be able to be done anymore.
Right.
Or, someone passes or something like that. Like I'm trying to find out what got you into it in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like who was your inspiration that you then 10 years later inspire the rest of the world? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So
I do.
We were just about to, I had Jacob Conard.
Oh yeah,
I had
a good
him,
customer. Yeah.
I had him. He was literally going to talk to Jesse about doing the podcast with us, and then literally that day, because I had mentioned to him before, and he's like, I just haven't seen him. But you know what? If I don't see him today, I'm gonna call him or I'm gonna text him. And it's the day all the shit blew up last month with which we don't know if it was a joke or like a proving a point or if it really happened. I don't know. But it was just funny because I immediately text Jake and said, I don't know if today's a good day, dude.
He's got a lot on his plate today.
Yeah.
It's funny how those celebrities, it just goes from being quiet to all this drama that's done for advertising or to get their name back. Who knows, but it did materialize into a lot of freaking drama. When you got TMZ picking it up and all this, it's just crazy being celebrity.
I mean, if it truly was like a proving a point of how they latched onto like drama
stuff,
then he needs to do probably a better job of letting everybody else know it was drama.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was he proved a point if that's the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I don't envy that part of his success.
And he don't either.
Yeah.
And not to brag about it, but we've had dinner together because he was that, and he could almost be a stand-up comedian.
For real.
Oh, he's got a freaking sense of humor, real dry, and he's just a real likable dude. I mean, he's real common. We went riding in the Eureka Springs together and stuff, and he nailed the whole city. And when people see him, I mean, people would be eating somewhere and they want an autograph from him or something. He handles that really, really cool. But he's as common as you and me. He really is, and his gift that he has, he don't brag about it.
Yeah.
He wants to talk about raising kids and, the politics and stuff. He's just as common as there is.
Yeah, I can see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's a funny motherfucker. He's fucking hilarious. He had us rolling on the floor a couple of times.
So as you get this bike, you get in the Chopper Dogs, like how long was your process to complete your first CFL?
Probably about 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
What was some of the hang-ups that you had, or what was some of the hardest obstacles?
The hardest deal was actually there was a guy named Brian Morgan. His handle on there was Paint 101 to get a quality paint job done. I could handle the machine and part and the fabrication and stuff, but I wanted a paint job that was quality of hot dog, know. And we've been to a couple of no-love parties and actually seen West Coast choppers with the incredible paint and flake and stuff like that. That was a deal. And Brian painted. I'd ship him kind of like what you the tins and stuff. And
where was he based out of?
The Carolinas.
Carolinas, okay.
Yeah. He did a killer job.
Was he on the Chopper Dogs as well?
He was on the Chopper Dogs. Yeah, his boy is actually a big dirt track racer and probably become a NASCAR star pretty quick. He paints helmets.
Okay.
What his big deal is now.
What's his shop called? Do you know?
I think it's Morgan Custom Paint. I'll text you.
Look, yeah.
Brian Morgan's his name. Carrie's his wife, and again, that's this Chopper Dog deal.
Yeah.
25 freaking years ago, I still know Devin is his boy that races dirt track cars, and we've met a couple of times, but he was a Chopper Dog, so we correspond all the time. It's a really bizarre bond. But that was the hardest thing, just getting a paint job.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got the paint job, I sold the bike within like 2 years.
For real?
For real, yeah. It went to freaking, I built that orange bike. It went to Australia. I built a black panhead that Jesse just loved the shit out of. Sold it to a guy in England, Lobo Cycles.
Mm-hmm.
He just bought a CT frame jigs, and he just bought another chopper that we built years ago. I basically, kind of like we talked about last night, I had to get rid of them because I had like 20 grand in them back in the day,
Yeah.
So to build a second one, I usually had 2 at a time, but then I would just sell them to finance the next build.
Yeah.
But it took me about a year to build my first one, and I think I built 4 or 5 CFLs for myself and probably 2 or 3 CFLs. Not complete, but did all the fab work for other people. A couple guys in Texas, a girl, Amy Scroggins out of Tulsa. We built her bike, but she finished it. And Loker painted her bike because they were buddies with him and all. But it kind of evolved from that. And then the parts deal became the need because
he shut West Coast Choppers down in 08 or 09.
Something like that. And that's when it became serious for us. Not that we wanted to I use the word loosely, copy or stuff, but there was a vacuum form for parts that was, people that needed.
Yeah, so to finish their builds and things like that.
So I kind of stepped in that and then evolved my own product line from that. Because then I seen I could make something and sell it. So I think I'm going to do a tank kit, and stuff like that. That builder was the one. And then we built hydraulic assist covers. The product line grew within probably 2 years after I finished that first CFL because I couldn't get parts.
Yeah.
So I had the capability to make my own parts, and that's kind of how the whole.
Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly what happened with Brad too, from what he was telling me. So it's like, I think Brad's had a little bit of a rougher, rockier road with Jesse since then.
And me too.
Same.
They're the same deal. It's like,
but it's like Jesse needs to have the perspective of like, what do you expect? Like these people were selling, they were dealers of you, fans of you.
Yeah.
And created these parts, and like you can't expect, and probably at this point, and somewhat making a living off of this thing that you created, and now there's subsequently these people out here making a living off what you were providing,
and stopped,
and
and we wouldn't be doing that if we could still buy those parts. Not to get in though, because there was a lot of drama with that. You know?
I remember.
Me and Brad sit down and talk because we both personally experienced. We don't talk about a lot, but both of us experienced at the same time.
Yeah,
he didn't like it. He didn't like it at all. And him and me, I can't speak for Brad, but I know Brad well enough that we have great respect for that guy.
Yeah.
He got us. That community sparked what we knew. This is how we monetize our living now. And we're both pretty big in the industry.
Yeah.
We both got a lot invested in this, our life, and that's how we make a living. That's how we make our payments and our utility bills by selling motorcycle parts. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't happy about it, but he never really did anything as far as
suing or anything.
Nothing like that. He made it known that he wasn't happy about it. But still, I'd shake his hand to this day. I have great respect for the guy. Mm-hmm. And to come and manufacturing guns. Mm-hmm. I manufacture parts, and like I talked to you last night, anyone can make one swing arm.
Yeah.
Anybody can go to a lathe and make one set of grips. And when you start manufacturing something, a catalog you're making 50 parts at a time.
Yeah.
To make the fixturing, to hold tolerances, to make quality parts, that easily separates the men from the boys real freaking quick. And him manufacturing guns, that's a complicated assembly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have great respect for him. And his craftsmanship, too.
Yeah.
And his personality. He's a freaking celebrity, so that's part of it, too.
Yeah.
But But to know him as a person and sit down and he's a funny guy. He's just a really common guy. Yeah.
So, you're doing these choppers, and like I said, he pulls the plug on a lot of the products that you guys all kind of need to kind of carry on. But as you usher into the aughts, the 2010s, like what was your business like then? Like, what did you ever get to a point where you felt like you didn't know where you fit in things anymore because everything went big wheel, and like how the chopper thing kind of crashed, if you will? How did that affect you guys?
Well, some people think it's crashed. With that chopper community, I became good buddies with Candy Chemical Scott.
Yeah.
And he wanted to build a headlight that was modern and billet and have LEDs and stuff. So I was still always into the choppers. I built still a lot of chopper parts. Mm-hmm. Now I'm evolving to the bagger stuff. So some people thought the chopper was dead. They just weren't cool. There still is this subculture of, like Scott,
the vintage chopper.
The vintage chopper, and I built a light for Scott. We had a collaboration to build that light, and the grips and the pegs, and I built forward controls for the chopper. So I still, again, I didn't have to maintain enough volume to live off the motorcycle deal.
Yeah.
But there was enough subculture that I built enough chopper bars to support my catalog. And support repeating it.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't take, I don't want a big piece of the pie. If you just have a small sliver, especially if you're a manufacturer, you can make a pretty good living.
So almost you could say that like in the absence of the billet chopper, as that kind of went away, the subculture emergence of vintage choppers came.
Yeah.
And your Born Frees came and these things like that. But ultimately, all the hype and attention went towards the big wheel bagger.
Exactly.
And so, that's what I'm saying. But from my perspective, I was aware of the hype of choppers, and I'm trying to differentiate between chopper and vintage chopper.
Yes.
Like I said, the hype on choppers, and it translated to like a little bit of a bobber culture for about a year or two.
I built a bobber, CFL bobber.
And then next thing you know, the big wheel thing kind of just took over the magazine airwaves.
Yeah.
And like I said, me not necessarily being a bike builder, me chasing the money of the industry at the time.
Right.
I don't even realize that there's a subculture taking place. So, you could argue that like maybe post choppers like that vintage chopper movement was the first like underground kind of movement to really start to take place, and then that ushered into also the underground movement of the Dyna, the FXR culture, kind of emerging behind the doors or the screen of the big wheel culture, and then bam, all this shit kind of pops up, and now I don't look at vintage choppers as any kind of underground thing anymore. I feel like it's as prevalent as everything.
Well, again, like just the Born Free Texas deal.
Yeah.
Pecker and Scott doing that whole deal. You now know if you go to, you and me are in FXRs and bagger stuff, but when you go to Born Free, there is an FXR Dyna presence, even
for sure.
even in California. But the force behind Born Free is those guys that build those vintage choppers.
Yeah.
Almost unrideable per se, but it's art in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
They're very creative. And with that, some of them, I build parts that they don't want to sit there on an engine lathe and build bungs with.
Yeah.
They want to build a sissy bar, but as far as the foot controls, we'll order Speed Dealer freaking bungs. I build a lot of parts that they don't want to sit there and spend 2 days on that only takes me 5 minutes to spin off a lathe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Didn't like Booster Brad has a lot of those type of parts too on his catalog.
He did, but I think he
started to slim it down.
Yeah, and I'm doing the same thing because I think our focus now, I would never compete. Me and Brad, we're almost brothers, and I don't want to ever build mid controls or anything, motocross top foot peg. I don't want to step in his market at all because I know his wife and his kids, and very well,
Yeah.
So I wanted to do the performance bagger deal, like the swing arm. There's as anyone knows the swing arm deal.
Yeah.
There's a vacuum there that just seems like no one can get right, So I'm stepping into that because I was in that whole thing too, wanting a product for my bike, but I could have a baby faster than I could get a swing arm from some people, you know what I'm saying? So I knew there was a need there, so I just put money where my mouth is. I'm going to build this freaking thing.
Well, after the whole I hate bringing him up and stuff, but when the performance bagger thing started to kind of get legs. Like I said, all you Californians out there, I get it. It was there first. But when it really started getting legs, it was around the time that, Mad Jap or MJK was creating what he was doing, and then Hoffman was kind of doing what he was doing. And San Diego Customs, the same thing, doing their thing. So you get this billet stuff that's coming that MJK was putting out that was so MotoGP, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it was like such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And I think that he had so much potential.
Yeah. If
he would just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
And I had my run-ins with him.
I did too.
Fab Kevin had his run-ins with him, and Boosted Brad, and a lot of people did.
Bare Knuckle Paul too.
Actually, I think it was Bare Knuckle Paul originally, not Fab Kevin, but. And then whenever, I love it, and I'll never forget it. Whenever Boosted Brad said whenever MJK kind of went after Boosted Brad, and everybody that knows Brad, he's like the most chill, nice dude in the world. I think everybody had Brad's back and just fucking canceled that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Me too. When he blew up the internet, and I don't mean to get in the drama part of it, but he said, Brad don't even own his own machine, so he's I'll just fucking put that motherfucker out of business. Like, dude, I'd fucking shut all my machines down with my product and don't fuck with Brad, okay?
Yeah.
That's my fucking homeboy. You don't fucking, I get goosebumps 'cause I got so fucking mad about it. Yeah, fuck you. Just 'cause you got machines, you're not the only motherfucker out there got machines,
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he, because like I said, whenever we were going through this little phase where he was about to be a sponsor of the podcast, he would call me and he would say these type of things, and I was, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, man, I need to grow this podcast. I need money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I need to find a way to monetize this in a real light, not like some fucking bar money.
Yeah.
So I'm like listening to the shit this guy's saying about a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
And I'm, in my head, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. No. And then, I found ultimately, I will take the blame that I didn't find the out. He found it, and I just let it happen because I didn't care at that point, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole situation, and then, with the cylinder heads, with Danny Wilson and stuff like that, like, it was just like, it blows my mind sometimes when people don't understand what the internet is and how it works and what it will do.
Yeah, good or bad.
It's what happened with Torque Magazine when they thought they can rename performance.
Yeah.
It happened with MJK when he thought he could say all these bad things about people and it wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
So it's a weird one.
Yeah, he reached out to me wanting to build that Moto X wheel. That's a BMX type deal. And he wanted some of those, and he didn't have a CNC. And I said, well, I've got extra ones. And so they're like $2,000 a piece. He's like, fuck, that's fucking stupid expensive. I can't fucking afford that. We talked about this last night.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's got this $7,000 to $10,000 fucking swing arm.
Yeah.
But he did reach out to me that he couldn't machine something and wanted me to machine these wheels out for him.
Yeah.
And I was like you. Again, this is stuff I don't really talk about, but he wanted me to do something. I'm thinking, no, I don't want. I got a weird vibe about you, so you'll have to find somebody else. He wanted me to machine some stuff for him. I was like, not going to do it. And I think he got other people to do it, and I think he never paid for it and stuff. Just like.
I mean, ultimately, that's why a lot of his drama came out because someone didn't get paid and they just spilled the beans.
Well, yeah, there's people that's like Bare Knuckle Paul. You don't want to fucking piss that motherfucker off. He'll make it right the right way. He'll make it manly right. I
loved. We went to the bar the first night that I got to over there, and we were just hanging out in the bar and. I was like, I've never been in a bar with someone that I feel like can beat everybody up.
Yes, I've said this before with people. I'd rather eat with Paul than fight with the motherfucker.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's so humble.
He is.
He's like a big. Mike's a big motherfucker too.
Yeah, they're all going to be. His son Sam's going to be big as fuck too.
Yeah, it's
probably.
the water up there or something, But he's just a real cool guy. We relate so much because we're machinists,
For sure.
So it's a really common thread. Same with Justin. Said that before. Walked up to Justin, introduced myself, and within like 5 minutes, we're talking machinist porn,
Yeah.
G codes and circular interpolation and SolidWorks and shit like that. Is like, might as well be talking about physics with other people, but him and me can relate, as far as that.
Yeah, sometimes I look at him and I forget that he is kind of smart.
Yeah, he is pretty smart. Yeah, I don't know what it is with people with no hair, but they seem to be super intelligent.
Less time spending fixing their hair and more time thinking about other shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your brain's getting too big, it's pushing the hair out.
Large craniums. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that like I said, that other than that particular instance, I mean, we talked about this last night too. It's I'm proud to say that our performance, air quotes, industry right now has had zero drama.
Yeah.
Nothing that couldn't get worked out offline.
Between men.
Yeah.
I'm not a drama dude.
I'm not either. And I'm doing my best to keep this performance motorcycle scene of baggers, FXRs, choppers, all this shit as drama free as possible. As far as in the big, there's always going to be little shit, but as far as big things, like, the last big thing that took place was the purpose built fucking with thrashing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I was like, man, calm the fuck down. Like this.
Yeah.
You're copying the fucking Harley part, so why aren't you saying it about them? You know what I mean? So,
yeah. John's a good friend of mine.
He is a good dude, and and I had him on the podcast a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I'd fucking have him on again in a heartbeat, but I know the thrashing guys, and I know their family, and I know that they got employees that they pay taxes on, and it's like, bro, don't just get on the internet and start motherfucking people when you don't understand that you're not just fucking with their life, you're fucking with other people's lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. I just stay out of it because I love John to death,
Same.
and I respect thrashing because they're a manufacturer. You two boys will have to figure it out.
Yeah.
I've always support John because he's a brother. He's a chopper dog too.
He is? Okay,
nice.
He
was a chopper dog too, and he was more the intellect.
Okay.
He's the wise one. He's the guy that he had his own freaking rock and roll band, dude. He's a hell of a fucking bassist. I mean,
I had such a great time when I talked to him. We talked like 4.5 hours, and that was before I started doing those insane
I told you the other day that I listened to your podcast when it was audio, when I'm driving my bulldozer in front of it. I got 100 acres here, so I'd listen for 4 hours on your podcast from John to Boosted Brad to everyone else. So I can pay attention to digging a hole and not listen. But
for the most part, it's all been good. But as things started going, like what compelled you to want to build the FXR to the nines like you did? You know what I mean?
Well, it was the hot deal.
Yeah.
Again, I was looking for everyone that's involved in the motorcycle deal wants to be part of the hot deal, and anyone that can't look at an FXR and see potential, the lines there is just crazy. I mean, it's just the whole legacy of the FXR. It's a cool story from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do my own deal on the FXR, and when I started it started like I had a design type deal, but then I wanted to build something light. So then the whole plan was I'll just build the lightest possible FXR I can do, whether I got to hollow out the axles or build my own freaking bolts or whatever. Carbon fiber. I talked to Kurt again at Custom Design Studios. Solid freaking dude. Him and his wife Lisa are just incredible. You've been.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast.
Yeah, he's got stories. I mean,
it's like sometimes you just can't. There's not a. You need to do like a whole series on some of these guys. Like
he's
Lineage.
A character. Yeah. But he's kind of like Paul Michael. They have an aura about him that seem tough and tumbly. But they're just really super polite, very conscientious of what they say and good direction of product and stuff. They're just honest people. But he helped me with a carbon fiber deal, and I just wanted to build something really stupid, light, and fast. And that's where it all kind of evolved from. So,
what some of the key things about your build was, the dampening for the motor mount situation, which I still kind of, my painter brain, does making it have some kind of shock absorption, would that not cause some kind of wobble since it's not static?
No, because what it does, it is static on both sides.
Okay.
It's energized. So it's got pressure on both sides of the piston because it's a mountain bike type deal.
Okay.
So you can actually put air on both sides of the piston, customize it even. So you can make that thing go back and forth, and it's kind of like it's a shock, and it's the spring too. But as the motor moves, it's moving that shock and not moving the frame. Okay. So you can actually, no vibration hardly comes up to the handlebars.
Okay.
At all.
So it's kind of like a Cadillac riding now,
exactly,
right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a torque arm on a Honda. Remember you had your torque arm and some were spring-loaded and stuff. When your motor went to the left, it would push it back to the right instead of bringing it all over. Okay. It takes that torque away, too.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I wanted to do the motor mount because that front motor mount on an FXR is just like, to be blatant and honest with it, it's a stupid fucking design. It's just fucking dumb when you got a tricycle type deal and trying to take tie rods and make it not wobble. And it just was stupid. So I know I could stabilize it pretty quick by doing two. I actually designing a new deal for the back with polyurethane bushings on the back that are 4 times wider than the FXR deal because I've seen that works. So I'm going to take that technology that I learned and put it on the actual swing arm mounts now too. So
that's going to be cool. I'm excited to see that. So
yeah.
And then you got the rear fender from Kirk. You built like this almost like brace for your seat.
Yes.
Is that just to kind of secure the...
Yeah, because I wanted to take my wife Haley on it or my boy Levi on it. And carbon fiber, as you know, is strong. But Haley only weighs like 105 pounds soaking wet. But when carbon fiber lets go, it breaks.
Yeah,
there's not some kind of it's going to bend a little bit. So I'm not going to have my precious wife on the back of my bike and thinking I'm going to hit a bump and then she's going to crack and be sucked up by the tire. But Toby Brown, my programmer, he helped me with that. I had the basic idea of the deal, and he helped me as far as the aesthetics of it and stuff. And it's a lot of people think it's stainless steel, but it's actually a 9-inch steel fender that I just cut anything that didn't look like brass, I just kind of cut it away.
Yeah. So you're able to just kind of shape it through that way. That's cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here in your shop and everything, and there's like a lot of different. I mean, obviously you got your lathe and stuff and a mill, but what about like sheet metal fab? I mean, you got a whole section over here for rolling.
I got box and pan brakes. I got an English wheel. I got a flashing hammer and stuff, and that's how I built my tank. My tank.
So that one right there?
That one up there.
Oh, the one up there, okay.
That tank that's on my FXR is aluminum.
Oh, okay.
Some people think it's chrome steel, but it's actually aluminum. And back in the 80s when that tank was made, that tank was rough.
Yeah.
And plus it was built for probably a Boyce FXR, so it had a round backbone.
Okay.
And I didn't want to replace my backbone on the FXR, so I had to cut all that out and build a square tunnel and then re-weld that tunnel in different panels and stuff. And then once I blew it apart, then I could fix the dents and stuff and reshape that tank to fit my FXR. So that's where that came about.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was a lot of work. It probably a week and probably a couple of days of welding and stuff. And then to make sure that I told you the story that I welded it all up. And 2 days before I went to Sturgis, I never pressure checked it. So I think I welded it good enough. I had a buddy help me with it, and it's like, it'll be fine. So me and Jason Hamilton, that helps me build the stuff. He was an employee, and he still helps me to this day. Let's pressure check that tank. So I went to freaking Harbor Freight and got a pressure gauge and built an adapter for the cap, and on the petcock build a deal. So we put air to it, and we were holding on to it, and all of a sudden, like, pop, freaking tank blew up. Because the pressure gauge, the $2 pressure gauge from Harbor Freight, didn't freaking work.
Yeah.
So by the time we probably put 30 pounds in there, it blew the freaking front of the tank up.
But shit.
Luckily, we had enough time to reshape it, and I didn't want to blow it apart and rehammer it. If you look real close, you can see the dent, but we welded it back up, and it was all fine.
I think I remember you pointing that out to me when I first saw it.
Yeah.
A while back. Yeah.
It's kind of like a paint job that you think has got this little flaw that's like in the back. Only you know it's there. We all are guilty of that, of our own perfections and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you got a handful of FXRs in here. What's the what are these other two? The RPs and the RT over there?
Yeah, the police bike is kind of custom build. We put height riser. It's got a 124 in it. And then I got the stock touring bike. It's an 80-inch motor. It's all stock, and I got another red one too that's all stock. I got 9 FXRs.
Okay, so you're hoarding them.
I'm hoarding them. But I got educated real quick. I got, not counting this frame that I'm going to make into a chopper, that I got 4 other frames at the house too. Just bare. I've sold all the stuff. And when I first started getting FXRs, you could buy them for $3,500, $4,000. But Elvis's place educated me pretty quick about how how I should have priced my stuff.
Yeah.
Because when I started taking them apart, because all I wanted was the frames and the titles.
Yeah.
And everything else, I actually ended up selling. Like if I bought an FXR for $3,500, I probably sold $4,000 or $5,000 of parts and got to keep the frame and the title.
Yeah.
But little did I know that this guy Elvis, which I'm buddies with him now, that I was selling him tanks for $300 that were worth freaking thousands of dollars on his price list and stuff like that. But he bought 90% of my shit. And then when I started selling all these bikes and all, but
yeah, well, like people give him shit, about like his prices, but eventually, they're going to be even higher, and there's going to be less. And,
we talked about that last night. I've seen on FXR Alpha page there was just not a touring bike. It was $25,000.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that's a lot of it. They don't make 69 Camaros. We talked about that too. Whether they, like we said, I don't know the price point. It's going to be an 86 touring FXR is going to be an $80,000 bike.
Yeah,
but I knew I could buy one 10 years ago for $4,500, and now I can buy a shit box for $15,000.
Yeah,
that's all rusted out and shit. Yeah. So there is some price increase in value of FXRs. Where they go, who knows?
Yeah, true. I mean, like I said, I know eventually there's more RT fairings out there than there are T-Sport fairings, and that's why you're seeing such a hike in the price of T-Sport fairings.
Yes,
original is what we're talking about, not
repops. Yeah,
not repops. So eventually, within the next 5, maybe 10 years, I think we are going to be in a place where RT fairings are going to start to. I think it won't be absurd to see original, good quality RT fairing go for $4,000 to $5,000.
I totally agree.
Within the next 5 years.
I totally agree.
As those things become more and more chopped up and found out, there was one somewhere they wanted $1,000, and it was cracked all to shit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So whether they'll get it or not, that's always to be determined. But at the same time, I think it's not going to be unrealistic to see those kind of prices.
I totally agree.
And it's like if I'm going to build an FXR. I don't know that I'm going to allow myself to put a repop anything on it.
And that's kind of where I'm at now too.
Dyna or Bagger, you want to throw RT fairing on it? I don't care if it's original or not. But
like we talked just last night, I want to make a retro rod. I want to update it with the late model wiring, Moto Gadget wiring that we sell those to, and then put a 111 or 124 so we can ride it to Sturgis with reliability. That'd be nothing. And I think that's why the ST is so freaking successful, because it's as close as anyone has ever made of a resto rod motorcycle. We talked about that last night too. The success of that bike, who knows what that's going to become?
I think it's going to, I think that as more parts are being developed, I think a lot of people right now need to take their FXR goggles off.
Yeah, I do too.
So I think a lot of the lowers that people keep doing, they keep trying to beat a dead horse. Instead of looking at those angles on that bike, and maybe it's just they're not capable of, they're taking an FXR lower or a repop, and they're shaping a couple of things to make it fit and then repopping that versus...
Well, it's hard for you and me because we're creative, and you can paint anything.
Yeah.
And I can make anything. Well, you and me have to realize sometimes that those people don't have the talent, not taking away...
Or
the vision to actually do something different, because it's easy to... Like, you've been copied and I've been copied. It's easy to cop a motorcycle pattern paint job that looks... Well, that's look like Jason's paint jobs.
I would just, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, this fairing has harder lines, it's thinner, so it'd be easy to take something. And again, I'm probably just copying Harley on this, but it'd be easy to take kind of the lower fairing style of the Road Glides have right now, how it extends down to the chin spoiler.
Yeah.
And do something like that versus, which again doesn't create anything. It creates no wind blockage or anything. It's all for looks.
Yeah.
And I wish people would understand that, you want your bike to look good, and those things look good on bikes. So, to my point, I would just say that I wish people would just find something that flows with the fairing and comes down and looks good. And I think that's going to, when someone actually does make that, it's going to, it'll change it'll add more interest to the bike. You know what I mean?
I do too. I agree with the lower legs, that a lot of people are doing the FXR legs on the STs and stuff. And they're pulling it off. And then if the factory looks at that, like they looked at all the guys that run the FXR fairings on Softails and stuff, if they find 50 guys that do that lower fairing that is a repop of the FXR, they're going to pull the molds off the shelf and start making those, you know, because
hopefully,
they do pay attention. I mean, we got to give the factory some applaud because the FXRP fairing was such a big deal. Mm-hmm. They did do a good spin on it. I mean, I think it's the one that really intrigued me. I went to the Saddleman deal in Sturgis, Buster Gates and other chopper dogs. He invited us up there, and they had built their own mini FXRP fairing in the garage, and that was fucking cool as fuck, dude. I think Saddleman is actually going to try to sell that product, but it was freaking pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely, you know, it's the get rich quick stuff. Oh, I can make a fairing. I can repop this. I can repop that. But man, you know, it's like this. Like you could have made you brought your own flavor to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, the wireframe's been done. That's obviously that, but that's because it's an aesthetic that works. Yeah. But you having one billet piece, sides, and this, and the options, and the cleanliness. I mean, I wish people would, instead of trying to rush things to market, take their time and fine tooth or fine comb through their ideas. And throw a couple ideas in the trash, like Jesse James always said on the things. He's like, this is the 8th tank I've tried, and before it was right, you know.
Yeah, this evolved, like Cody Haggard says last night. We tried to build this swing arm for about 5 years, and it's come to evolve from I was going to build one piece, and the middle piece was going to be the brake caliper, but that wasn't cost effective. Yeah, and then I didn't like the welding thing. I wasn't going to weld. Though we've got capabilities of welding. I got buddies that weld that are certified welders. I didn't want that. Yeah. Far as the ease of manufacturing, because that's labor intense, and then there's human error that can happen on a deal, you know. Yeah. And we all know the Big Bear Chopper deal with all their bad welds and stuff, so I didn't want that. I applaud anyone that thinks they can do that, but eventually it's going to fail because it's manually done. Yeah. And it's not. When you weld on aluminum, you soften aluminum. I don't give a shit what grade it is. I know enough about metallurgy, like, if we could machine stuff in aerospace, we'd be welding stuff. Yeah. But if I show you some of the billet shit that I make for aerospace steel that could easily be pieced together fabrication, if they aren't going to do it, you shouldn't be freaking doing it. Yeah. You know, they're smart guys. So I wanted the three pieces to the two sides press into the middle. Yeah. And then it's held by stainless steel fasteners with aircraft quality, high
tensile strength.
High tensile strength, and instead of just your nylon type lock nuts, it's aircraft quality lock nuts, high strength, high torque, and the stud's got the interference thread that fit into this side of the swing arm. It's a stud that is, you have to take a stud deal and turn it into. It's just not going to thread in. It's got interference fit, so it's never going to come out of there. So there was a lot of design. And
were you able to shave any weight off of a stock swing arm?
Yeah, especially on the FXR swing arm. Okay. We shaved 12 pounds off a stock FXR swing arm to our FXR swing arm. Nice. It's a little lighter duty than this. I think this weighs 9 to 11 pounds lighter than a stock one. Okay. But the strength ratio is, and the adjustability of the three shock points is, there's a lot of customization there. You can run a 14-inch shock on the front position and still not hit the oil pan. Okay. There's still a 1/4 inch clearance, and that's at the shortest position, the most forward position. Yeah. So you can actually bring the shock back and get even more clearance, which will level out your swing arm to be more parallel or level with the ground. Okay. Yeah, you can.
So what are your three? So you have
the back one is the stock position. Okay. So, and the front one is 1 inch increments. So by the time you put this in, and the way we got it positioned, again, not to repeat myself, but you can put a 14-inch shock, and that was part of the issue with the guy from Canada that made his high-end deal. Like,
because it was hitting the swing arm, the transmission.
The oil pan back there, and Kyle figured that out pretty quick for big trouble when they did that deal. They had to take that
thing, and Justin remachined the whole thing.
So it had clearance, and when I seen that, that's why I raised this bracket up as high as I could, so to give me clearance down there. And that the modularity of this gave me the accessibility to move this anywhere I wanted. So when we put it in the 3D model, we knew that we had a 1/4 inch of clearance there and all. But
there's that, and I don't mean to bring this up to talk shit or anything, but I guess that swing arm that's kind of running around right now, that's built from like Malaysia or something.
Yeah,
that's the guy that copied my like bike paint job to
really.
the T. Yeah, my last one.
Yeah,
and I've been seeing it swing. I didn't know anything about that, and then I saw a couple of the racers were running their swing arms and stuff. But this one just lends itself, in my opinion, just a little bit of just a more style. Yeah, And then I love the ability to be able to put like a center or a wheel
race
chalk
jack
on the back.
Yeah, and then also anybody that runs with the bagger type deal. And since I wanted it to look race but still had the aesthetics of something that wasn't race, the axle nut's always been a big issue with the bagger. Yeah. So when me and Toby designed, he's my programmer, and he's vital part of design as this that I am. I'm the mechanical engineer by it because I know how I want it to be mechanically, and then I wanted the fasteners and stuff. But he is a big part of the aesthetics part of this because he's such an artsy-fartsy guy. So a big shout-out to Toby. But I wanted to make sure it could safety wire, and it was easy to manufacture because I have a machine that does the nut all in one operation, so I can do the cross drills and stuff, and we just had to add a little bit of material because to fasten that nut on a bagger is a pretty vital deal. There's all kinds of guys that come up with these crazy frickin' bolt things that goes around the hex and stuff, so it was easy for me to spend another $7 or $8 of material cost and to put that little tab on there so you can safety wire it, Yeah. And again, that comes from the aerospace stuff that we do all the time.
Yeah, I've had the bolt come off situation. So.
Yeah, it's probably pretty. And not to sounds like I talked to Kurt, but Kurt didn't put the safety wire on the FXR one I built for him, and he's hollered at me. He said, "Hey, I think I need an axle nut." It's not like you gave me extra wire and everything. I didn't fucking use it, but I lost an axle nut. So we're definitely going to safety wire this one, Yeah. Because there's a lot of vibration that goes on in them Harleys, So, yeah. And it's a pretty cool look, I think, It didn't cost us but $7 extra to make that little option on there.
Yeah, and it looks good, and it all kind of flows in together as the like the slider piece.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and then you said you started doing your own anodizing and things like that.
Yeah.
So how was that process to kind of bring to light?
Well, that come from the aerospace stuff. Yeah. Because most of that stuff has to be either anodized or chem film, they call it. Uh-huh. It protects aluminum from oxidizing in space and stuff. Yeah. So when we did all this aerospace stuff, which is super expensive, we'd have to farm it out to locations. And the same thing with the motorcycle industry. So I've got $50,000 for material, and then I got $50,000 in labor, and the product's done as far as it comes in my shop. Mm-hmm. But now I have to send it to an anodizing shop in Tulsa or Houston. That's going to take 12 weeks to get that shit back to me. Mm. So not only that I've got 90 days of cost in it already, that if I had invested $50,000 in an anodizing line, I can finish that stuff in 2 days, invoice my customer, and get my return on investment. That's what drove me to do my own anodizing was the aerospace stuff. Mm. And we designed and built our own anodizing line. When you go see it, you're like, I call it my meth lab because it's kind of, we got beacons and freaking measuring water. And
anodizing is traditionally is an electromagnetic situation in a film? Or
no,
what?
It's actually an etching type deal. Okay. So what you do is you bring it into it's electrically charged. And opens the pores up where the anodizing actually goes into the material about 1,000ths and builds up about 1,000ths. So it's an etching type. The longest process in anodizing is the etching part. And depending on what temperature you use to etch it, like there's different type, class 3, class 2, which is really hard. Most military stuff is class 3, which the irritation of the water that etches this has to be 55 degrees. Uh-huh. They've did that over the years, so that etches it deeper. And when you anodize it, I don't know if you know anything about hardness and stuff, like super hard steel is 62 Rockwell on the C scale. Uh-huh. You couldn't take a drill to it. Well, this anodizing, if you do it on class 3 and etch it at 55 degrees, it becomes 75 on the Rockwell scale. You couldn't take a carbide drill and drill through this shit if you had to. It hardens it and actually puts some strength qualities into the aluminum too.
So would that also attest to why, like, we used to always get the PM purple?
Yeah,
because it was like such a thin.
It's in decorative anodizing. Okay. Again, there's 3 different classes of anodizing. What they call the decorative, which is real UV sensitive. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take. That's the thing about anodizing. The biggest enemy of anodizing is UV rays from the sun. Mm-hmm. So if you got a high-end bike, I always recommend if you drive it to work, park it in the shade or put a cover on and stuff, because 8 hours in UV is not good on. I don't care what.
Paint.
Well, yeah, anodizing especially, big. But if you start, we do class 2, mm-hmm. which is there's different ratings on the dyes that you use too, and then when we do it, we seal it also. But what we also found out is to have a consistent color, you have to electropolish the aluminum. So we have an electropolish tank. So if you see my Instagram story, you'll see these have to be held on titanium rods too, mm-hmm. so we can reuse them because it's so corrosive, the chemicals and stuff and the etching that we do, it doesn't bother titanium. Mm. So anytime you see our fixtures that hold or grips or anything goes in the tank, it's all titanium. Mm. And it was quite a learning curve. And Justin Ray, that runs my business now, he took that all upon himself to figure that all out. Figure it all out. Yeah. Yeah,
and talking with Brad and even Justin, my machinist, they would tell me how they'd have these horror stories about sending product out to anodizers and then they're coming back damaged or miscolored.
Yeah.
And just you're always at the mercy of them for this product thing, right?
Yeah. On MJK, I've seen stories that when they get stuff back, and plus the cost of shipping.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do that. I mean, big time. You're talking about, can you imagine sending 20 swing arms to Tennessee and then getting lost in UPS? I mean, there's all kinds of old, issues that could happen. That there's quite an investment.
Like wrapping up this swing arm, you offer it with, just this is like ready to go on the stock brake, stock setup.
Yeah.
And then you offer the brake arm that pretty much will allow you to adapt to 108 millimeters. Is that what
108 millimeter.
Yeah.
And it puts it at 5 o'clock too, if I would have put it on the axle. So it sits like this when it's parallel. So your caliper sits at about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, we could design that to be anywhere, but there were so many issues with exhausts and fenders and stuff. We were either going to put it at 6 o'clock, which it was just too square for me.
Yeah.
So I just clocked it back to about 5 o'clock to give it a little bit of aesthetics instead of everything being so perfect and all.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would, this is something I heard through a long time ago that a lot of people would tend to put the brake in the same spot Harley did, as if like the brake is also using the swing arm mount as a stop or some shit like that.
Well, there's a lot of technology. When I looked at the positioning of that caliper, you can see the only reason to change it, like if you look at Pan America, they take the caliper and put it above the swing arm. Mm. The only reason for that is when they're trail riding, don't run into a rock.
Okay.
There's no advantage to having it in any location because it's a circle.
Yeah.
So wherever you put it, you're going to have the same. Because I kind of went down the rabbit hole too.
Yeah.
Well, why do these Grand Prix GP bikes put it in a certain location? There's got to be some engineering, but mostly it's about ground clearance and stuff.
Okay.
So when you see a KTM, because the caliper's up here, if you're running through a freaking mud hole and stuff in Big Rock, the caliper's exposed to all kinds of issues.
And the brake line's on the top side of the swing arm.
Yeah, that's the only. There's no really. As far as I know, there might be 2 or 3% difference putting it in a certain location at 2 o'clock versus 6 o'clock. But for you and me, it's not going to make any difference at all.
Plus, you can't show off your cool caliper. You just
exactly. Yeah, your $400 caliper. Yeah. Like, And that was part of what I never could understand about the competitors that did this swing arm. All the cool stuff. Aesthetically, being the machinist, the painter, was inside the swing arm. Mm. So, like, there's all kinds of issues with that, as far as debris and dirt and rubber and then cleaning it out. If we clean their bikes, it's hard enough. You imagine cleaning a spoke wheel, but getting in here and cleaning the inside of a swing arm, we're going to fuck that. It's just going to have to be dirty. And that's why we put it on the outside.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3% strength difference because there is actually a difference if you put this flat spot on the outside. Again, we got the software that analyzed that. There was hardly any difference, 2% of having the wall on the inside versus the outside. Yeah. So, and then again, shout out to Toby that he came up with the tool path on the bottom that he thought aesthetically was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, the mechanical part was my design, but the aesthetics, I just
let him run with it.
Yeah, again, it's
got the right texture, and the right I guess you would say windows in the right spots, especially like on the little slider piece where you have the gold.
Yeah.
Just being able to kind of dig just a little bit out, just so it's not a flat piece.
Yeah.
And add some contour to it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And other than that, like we talked about this last night as well, but just the box, the way that you put them in these handmade boxes.
Yeah.
And pretty much, obviously everybody knows I'm getting the swing arm. This is mine.
Yeah.
It's got my name on it, and it's like something that I'm not necessarily going to want to, I'm going to want to hang this box somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Well, anybody that's bought one, Cam Stewart, Edwards, he did one for his buddy and stuff. I call it garage porn.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a keepsake.
Yeah.
And then some guys will say, well, I'll sell the bike, but I'm going to keep the swing arm. Because it goes with it, But my buddy Bill Tanny that actually helped me get my 610 store, he's a quarter mile down the road, and he's got a laser burner. He builds the boxes for me. And I've seen this presented on a product made in Germany or whatever, and I thought it was super cool. And, again, if a person's buying $2,500, I want them to be feeling like that $2,500. Personally, and I take all the boxes, and we pick all the parts and everything, so Brad's got another one ordered, so I know his stuff's anodized. And another thing we do to make everything uniform, so everything's picked, and then when we anodize these pieces like on yours that are gold, we dip them all at the same time.
Okay, so
it all looks, because if we gold Monday and the chemicals get a little bit used, even though we got all kinds of measuring devices, if I take one piece out of yours and anodize it Thursday, you, especially the color guy that you are, you're going to know that's 1.5 shades golder than it is. So we do all these together in one deal, even though they are different from Steve that ordered last week.
Yeah.
At least all your components are the same shade of red or gold. So we do it all in a group. So, and with your bracket too, everything's put in at the same time, so we know it's going to be as close as possible as we can get to all the components being the same color.
Yeah, I mean that's important, because uniform or unity within like all the finishes and coatings and shades is always pretty important. So
especially if you do like you and M that runs the Arlen Ness gold wheels and stuff. That gold is.
See, I feel like those gold wheels tucked behind this this black wireframe is just going to be you're not going to want to run bags.
Exactly. Well, again, shout out to Cody Haggard that he's got a swing arm too that's all black.
Yeah.
And what we do, we call it accent machine. We actually sand the face of it off, so that's raw aluminum, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it gives it a nice look.
Yeah, it pops that X. And we're working on a deal. We've done it a couple of times. We're going to two-tone anodize.
Yeah.
So if we take this and machine the front of it off. We've done it 2 or 3 times, and we haven't done it successful enough that I feel like it's a good product. I did one for a guy from Canada, a red and black one, and it didn't really work for me, but we're going to perfect it. Yeah. So, for instance, we'll machine the face of this off and put it back in the gold tank. This will be black, and the face will be gold.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's so
that gold won't affect the black.
No, it won't.
Okay,
yeah, it's kind of it's really cool. No one does it. I've only seen
two-tone anodizing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something we're working on really hard to get that kind of perfected, and it'll be the same price.
So what what you can talk about? What would you say is some of the I know that you're adding a lot more to your performance line this year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So throughout the year, you're planning on dropping some more types of products to.
Yeah. We're going to do the aluminum subframe on the back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're going to do drop trees on the front so you can run 2 over forks without just running your stock forks and raise your bike 2 inches. And we're going to come out with a new slave cylinder. We make a slave cylinder for the Evo type transmissions and the Kicker 4 speeds. It's not like what's the Spider one? It's going to be an all billet one instead of just a little one slave
cylinder. Is that on the
clutch side?
So like how Boosted Brad has his
exactly
pressure plate.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be similar to the one we do with our cover and stuff like that. And then there was a couple other products that I can't remember, but we got like 6 of them that we're going to do for the bagger deal. Well,
that's going to be rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud you for looking into things that aren't necessarily that touched right now, because you know, with moving forward, I mean, I see, and I see a lot. I'm trying not to incriminate myself here, but a lot of people are, you know, trying to get in this. It's been in the industry for a while, but just didn't think this was going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
and now that they're trying to come along, they're so far behind in the curve, and they're trying to make products that are already fulfilled.
Yeah,
that aren't, you know, they serve a purpose, but they're not necessarily going to. They're not going to aesthetically give us a variety, right? So, you know, a certain product. What I mean by that is like, if we have 400 different, or that's a lot. If we have 40 different types of risers.
Yeah.
I get it. There's a lot of choices, but I like that because I don't necessarily always want what everybody has. Right. But when you have like this necessity product, it's just like this thing that's not visible, or it's not very, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't serve a purpose to have 400 of those.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
And kind of my business plan is too, is again, not to talk about Brad all the time, but I'm not going to get it out of them because that takes, I try to stay away from people that, really anybody that has already got a product. It's saturated anyway.
Yeah, but it's about fixing something, right? You made a swing arm that's very, very, you know, race inspired, badass, serves a purpose, and it's fixing a problem that we have in the swing arm industry because of like you said, you can make a child in between while you're waiting on that thing while you're waiting for your tracking number.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So, and I've dealt with other people that get overwhelmed with that. You know, I did a lot of stuff for Tyler Sawicki back in the day. He got overwhelmed. I did all his exhaust tips. Solid dude. Solid dude. But he got overwhelmed. He's just a 1 or 2 man show. You don't understand, if you got a good product, when the world wants it, they come knocking on your door. Yeah, they don't want to wait 6 months, 8 months. Yeah. I don't see how. If I had a customer who was aerospace and I'm going to build this exotic part for him, and I'll get to you about a year. Call me when you. I'm not going to stay in business very long.
Yeah.
There's no freaking way.
Yeah, you gotta show up when you're called upon. You know what I mean?
That's it. And now I'm putting my money with them. I'm showing up, dude. I'm seriously capital investing in this, and I'm going to do the Dyna one next. I was going to do the Softail one next, but them Dyna boys, they're knocking.
They're ready. Well, I feel like the Softail. So I feel, you know, maybe I'm gonna add a little bit of pressure on there for you.
Yeah.
The Softail is a very complicated setup, right?
It is. Yep.
And while you're gonna have mechanical design type stuff that you're going to need to figure out on one end to make it just do what it's got to do.
Yeah.
Then you got to add into the aesthetics. Then you got to let your buddy over there get on it.
Yeah.
And give it some flavor so that it's like, you know, something cool, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that like a lot of people immediately started making it look like this.
Yeah.
You know, giving it that traditional Dyna look.
Yeah.
And that might be the way it needs to go.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the more you stare at it, the more you look at it, the more you test it out, try a couple ideas and see how it looks.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to throw away 4 or 5, you're gonna hit a home run that everybody's gonna want, because I feel like nobody's taking the time
to do that,
to make a swing arm for the Softail that truly knocked it out of the park yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. We've got the preliminary drawing stuff, but again, me and Toby's working on the aesthetic part of it too.
Yeah.
It'll be similar to this. The X members might be a little bit different because, you know, it's got the monoshock deal and stuff like that. We've got that figured out, how that's all going to assemble. No welding at all.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to put
the
liability of something failing. Far as not that that's saying anyone that makes one that's welded up, it's going to fail.
It just you're eliminating the liability side of it.
Maybe even a 1% failure. Is not good at all.
Well, like I said, I'm not trying to talk shit and say that all the Softail swing arms are stupid right now because they look good. I'm just saying, like, you know the difference between, you know, when you see something that really just floors you, like, man, like, wow, like someone created that. You know what I mean? Like I said, right now they have stuff that's good that did its job. It's like, yeah, bad. We got swing arms now, cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not like fucking like, wow, like, man, like you really created something out of
nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, the other thing, you know, before as we're getting kind of in on here, what you know, I want to talk about this fucking building, man. You know, we were out and checking it out last night, and and you know, your enthusiasm for it is very infectious.
Yeah.
It's on Route 66 in Joplin, Missouri.
Yeah.
1980 or 1880?
1888 is when this building was first. It's one of the very first registered buildings in Joplin, Missouri.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was kind of I always wanted my storefront, and I wanted to be, since we're in Joplin, it's Route 66. So I've always been looking for some kind of property that's something that would be on Route 66. 2 or 3 times I got real close, and it just failed. It just wouldn't work out. So I was in this shop, and my buddy Bill Taney comes, and he's got a florist shop that's just 1 block away from that 610 Main is where this is. And so he's been a friend of mine for 30 years. So, what's the deal? I said, oh, man, I've been just dealing with this freaking deal about this building I was building Route 66, and it kind of failed, and I'm just freaking frustrated with the whole freaking deal. And he's like, dude, I decorate this one building on Main Street on Route 66 for
Christmas.
For Christmas every year for
Preston Lacey.
Preston Lacey owned it. Like the Jackass guy, he goes, oh yeah, he pays me every year just to decorate this building. It's on Main Street. And said, let's go look at it. I got the key to it. So I was like, all right, let's do that. So we get in my freaking truck and we're talking and shit, and I pull up at this fucking place. It's like, dude, this is fucking badass. What's this all about? You know, you've been there. It's got a deep entry that's a showcase on each side. You can put 2 motorcycles. The front door is just like, it's built for a motorcycle deal. And the floor was built in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And it's 6,000 square feet. And you've been there. It's 2 stories, but in that 2 stories, it's open 24 feet to the top with a mezzanine, which is a deck that's the observatory over the first floor.
Yeah.
And when I went in this place, I was like, it's been here 140 freaking years.
Yeah.
It's been this badass bar out of the early 1900s. It's been an incredible drugstore. It's been this haberdashery, which is a custom men's clothing and hat store. You know, then I started going deep in the history, and he says, you think you'd be interested? Fuck, dude, Main Street, Joplin, Route 66, I'm in on this. So he gets hold of the owner, and the owner says, I want to meet him and see if he's a cool guy. And we met. He said, yeah, I'll sell it to you. It sounds like a cool deal to build this into. And like 2 weeks later, I'm freaking owning this freaking building, man.
That's wild.
Yeah, and it's got this super cool loft upstairs. Like, I like to have guys that travel Route 66 on motorcycles and stay upstairs. And you've seen it. It's got this incredible speakeasy. It was a hidden bar.
Yeah.
Back in the early 1920s and stuff, during Prohibition and stuff. You've seen the stage where the band was. It's like, you couldn't be any cooler, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to move this shop down there, so I'll be able to be building motorcycles down there and selling product. And
yeah, so know about like the upstairs, and you know what you're planning on doing to kind of create a place for, you know, bikers traveling on the Route 66 way to kind of come out there and get this like unique experience.
Yeah.
And basically have like a speakeasy to themselves kind of thing. Exactly. It's going to be super rad.
Yeah.
And so, I was saying like, I'm hoping that we can align our trip in June-ish or July-ish.
Yes.
To be able to experience that on the way through here.
Yeah, that's my goal, to get it done in 5 or 6 months, and again, move my machine shop down there and have some really neat display cases for all our products, and then sell other people's products. I want to try to sell some Hell Babe stuff for my wife. Haley's going to do that. and Thug Incorporated, and of course the Dixon flannels and anything bike. Try to make it a motorcycle haberdashery. That's a custom type, high end, even white boots and stuff like that. So, and a gathering place. I want to have bike nights. Cody Haggard has good success with bike nights, and you gave some great advice for us to build that bike night culture up.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you doing that, because you are successful in the Dallas, and we want to do that. And we have a great parking lot behind this building.
Yeah.
A half a block wide and a whole block long.
Yeah.
So we can have great gatherings. I mean, we can put 200 or 300 bikes out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll have our own bar upstairs where we have alcohol and stuff, and poker tables and pool tables and stuff. It'll be a great, if you and your crew come up here going to Sturgis, it might be a little bit way to the right, or some of the guys from St. Louis, Bare Knuckle Paul or Kyle, come through this way to go to Born Free Deal to have a little group gathering, spend the night, hang out, and then we all travel to Born Free, Texas together. Yeah. I want it to be a unique place, not only for Joplin, because it is on Route 66.
Yeah.
The draw around here in this town on Route 66 is kind of overwhelming. I showed you it last night. It's a town kind of built off the legacy of. Yeah, it's even in the song, Route 66 song.
Yeah.
I can't sing very well, but Joplin, Missouri is in that Route 66 song. So there's a lot of history here, and money too. There's all kinds of funds and stuff to people that have business on Route 66, tax incentives, and this building is historically registered too. It's 140 years old.
That's wild. Yeah.
And I told you this before. When you go there, you can imagine how many people were there at this bar. It's a 2,500 square foot bar in the 1900s.
Yeah.
And the politics that was happening 120 years ago, and the merchandise of selling a guy's suit and a hat. It just the history there just feels like there's ghosts there to tell the story.
Well, I like the concept of it because there may be, and I could be wrong, but I don't know of any other motorcycle-based business based on Route 66 that's going to cater to the community of that.
I don't think there is.
And the other good thing is like there's many different worlds of motorcycles, right?
Yes.
You could have easily been another one of those guys that we see selling whips and leather at Sturgis that starts a shop on Route 66, and then there's no connection to the culture. Yeah. And so since you are an FXR guy, a chopper guy,
and make product.
And make products, like you're going to be able to bring, a sense of, how do you say it? Like it's going to be able to bring a sense of like, now we have as a collective scene or group of industry. I don't know what the fucking word is, but now we feel like we have a stake on Route 66.
Yeah, part of the history.
Yeah.
I totally get that, because there is so much travel that, whether it's a Corvette or Mustangs, but since we're in the motorcycles, and again, I want it to be a destination from guys from Arizona, from New York, from Chicago, like your buddies that do the two-lane.
Yeah, two-lane life. They came through here.
Yeah. And then I'd see that drawing of them being part of this community too, and helping me build this brand. It's
if you build this place, they will fucking ride here and come check it out.
It's kind of like the old story: build it and they will come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm kind of designing our trip for our group to kind of knock off, like we have to knock off North Dakota, right?
Yeah.
It's kicking our ass because we don't want to go there.
Yeah, it's.
And I could be wrong. I was wrong about a lot of states, and I've traveled them, and I'm fucking blown away each time. But I'm trying to set this up so we go around the Great Lakes, hit Detroit, and then beeline it to Chicago.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not riding all the way to Santa Monica, I want to start riding 66 all the way through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I think it's a great thing to put on anyone's bucket list.
Yeah.
Whether you're into Mustangs, Corvettes, or motorcycles, KTMs, the people that come through this town from other countries, it's just freaking nuts.
Isn't it crazy sometimes how other countries are more interested in our history than we are?
Japan, and then people. I was out working on that 610 address, and a guy comes with a KTM. It was a Sunday afternoon. This guy was from Russia. He was like our buddy Traveling Charlie.
Yeah.
He had traveled from the tip of Cape Horn in South America all the way to the Arctic Circle in Alaska. And I've never even freaking heard of this guy.
Yeah.
And he stopped in. What's really cool about this Route 66 deal is you get a little passport. And if you go to this place, the speed dealer place is going to be called the House of Speed. Mm-hmm. So we were already going to be registered in a vital stop on Route 66.
Okay.
With that, you get a passport, and we have a little stamp. And we stamp your passport that you've been to the House of Speed. So you've accomplished 33 things on this passport thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
What about what was I thinking of? Oh, you were telling me about the sign. You're going to do a big neon sign for the
neon sign. There's some history here of a famous bar that was called the House of Lords.
Okay.
It was 3 stories tall. It was a restaurant bar with a gambling hall on the 2nd floor and a brothel on the 3rd floor. The same with my building. My building was called the Minor Merchant Bar with rooms. Mm-hmm. So the rooms were probably a brothel or whatever. Yeah, yeah. And Haley, my wife, she went down the rabbit hole too and found all these advertising deals of rooms for rent at 610 Main Joplin on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible amount of history. But with that, there was a neon sign there that was probably 15 foot tall. And since it's got history and you have history to prove that that neon sign was there at that size, we get to duplicate that sign. Long as it replicates, it was a haberdashery called McGuire. I forget what the name of it was now. But we get to replicate
CW or
CM. Coulter McGuire.
Coulter McGuire, that's right.
Was the haberdashery. So we get to replicate that sign at that size because it's historically correct.
Yeah.
So, and we got the guy in Florida making the sign for us now. It's going to be probably 11 foot tall.
God damn.
It'll be House of Speed with the Route 66 emblem on it, and then we'll put Joplin, Missouri on the bottom. It'll be a photo op too.
Yeah.
And then on the back wall in the alleyway, which you have the municipal parking lot, we're putting that big sign that says "Greetings from Joplin, Missouri," similar to the ones that's like the guy that's got in Austin and stuff. And we'll have a neon sign on the back too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because it turns. Route 66 turns on the corner. So once you guys start heading west towards Kansas, you'll see the back of our building because it's open because of the parking lot. So we'll either have a neon sign that has House of Speed or maybe a bar and shield that's the Harley deal without saying Harley. They know that this is a motorcycle type business.
No, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
No, I like the idea, man. I think it's gonna, and you know, it's taking kind of putting your foot forward about creating community, and this is a big community within the Route 66 thing, but. Yeah. You know, like you said, you're a longtime resident, pretty much a native of Joplin now. Yeah. So you might as well like take some ownership and create something for other people to have a reason to come experience it.
Yeah,
right?
I want this to be part of my not destiny, but my legacy of my family and my boy and my wife to go on. And it's just like if you're ever part of the community, there's famous people in this town. Whether it's Newton Jewelry or 609, the restaurant and stuff.
Preston Lacey.
Yeah, Preston Lacey for sure. To be part of the community out here in the farm, the ranch, you know, we deal with life and death of coyotes eating our chickens and ducks and our cows and shit. Yeah. But what has helped me too, as far as going downtown, is dealing with the inner city problems that I've never even had an inclination even think about. You know, dealing with the homeless people. Yeah. And all the people that are. It seems weird to me that there's so many liberal people that live in the inner city that I've never had to deal with in their fights of rights and notoriety and owning a business because you're gay and stuff. It was never on my radar. Yeah. But now trying to be part of the community, you hear all the you know, we're the flyover states. Yeah. Now if you move to Chicago or Dallas, I don't know how it was in Dallas, but just going to this metropolis inside of Joplin, you understand the inner city instead of the rural issues thatVe never had to deal with. So it's enlightened me there to understand.
Yeah, I grew up in the inner city, so I kind of always had a kind of respect, and I grew up very open-minded, and I still am.
And I am too.
You know, I carry a lot of conservative values, but I still have a lot of liberal values as well. I do too. You know, so
and I think that's most good Americans. There should be some middle ground, but and I'm trying to understand that stuff. But I guess what I'm saying is enlighten me. Again, living out on 100 acres in the middle of freaking nowhere, I don't deal with all that stuff. But because when I first went down there, kind of told you the whole story. Like I was new sheriff in town. Yeah. This fucking get off the freaking sidewalks and shit. You can't be pissing and shitting in front of my freaking store, dude.
Yeah. That needs to be that way no matter what. I mean, like you said, you find out there's a lot of mental health issues with a lot of the homeless and things like that. Yeah. And I mean, what do you do? I mean,
but being part of the community now, I wanted to put some kind of effort in trying to get my input, just being a human being, good human being, to like, let me see if I can have some kind of input on this and help with this, because I see the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to put some time and energy in helping the community fix this problem. So again, moving a storefront to the city instead of just a rural areas kind of enlightened me to his life. Too. It's rounded me out for sure.
I told you last night, man, that's like what you're doing is kind of my, it's a very, very fuzzy dream of mine to do in Dallas somehow, which I don't know if I'll ever, with the kind of money that things cost, like what you just got in Dallas, I don't know that no matter what motorcycle related I'd ever be able to do it. Yeah. But it would be with the same kind of energy that you're putting into this. Yeah. I want to make something for other people to enjoy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's took me a long time to get here. Again, the last 3 years has changed me as far as a good marriage and people running my business to focus on the community of the motorcycle deal and meet people like you that are like-minded. And it is about, we want to monetize too. Yeah. But we want the legacy to go on,
Yeah, when I talk about monetization within all the things I'm doing, it's everybody goes to work and that's how they pay their bills.
Yes.
And if they, if they can find, if they want to ride across country, like a lot of my, almost every one of my friends that ride with me across country, when they're riding with us, they're getting paid time off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You and me don't.
We don't. Mm-hmm. And, and I'm not saying like, woe is me or any of that type of shit. I'm just saying that like, when you put a lot of it, like this whole trip right now that I'm on, this is the last day of it. Tonight I'll finally get to
go home,
grab my wife's tits. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait.
Yeah.
But this trip, it's like, I use my money from Patreon. I use my money from sponsors to pay for hotels, to pay for gas, food and things like that, to do this trip, to come home and have your story and another bare knuckle Paul one. And I tried to get Jeff Wright on. He was sick. And
you'll get Jeff Wright.
So
that's a great story there.
There's something to it, man. It's like, I don't know. I try not to talk about money on here a lot because it seems like when I do, I lose spot
people. Well, you shouldn't, because again, I applaud you. We've been trying to talk to get together since Sturgis, and the investment that I was going to have to put forth of either airplane tickets or it's going to be $400 or $500. So I applaud you investing in not only yourself but me too and other people. So again, it's just
well, I appreciate the acknowledgement of that, and you guys made this an easy stay for me down here in Joplin, so I appreciate that as well with the hotel and everything, dinner.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And so, but I'm really, really stoked. I do want to check out the rest of the shop, so we can start wrapping this up here in a second. But like a good place for people to like stay in contact with like what you're going to be doing over this next year, to be able to see updates on this building and when it's going to be available for the public. Just stay connected to the Instagram.
Instagram, definitely.
And is it just Speed Dealer or
It's Speed Dealer. Now, whether we start another page, which we probably won't, because
I think you should.
Yeah, it's going to be, the building is going to be called the House of Speed.
Yeah.
So it'll be the same. So we get good content as far as product in the history of the building too. And I've showed you a little bit of the stuff that we discovered, the Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh yeah.
The glass and stuff. There's just a whole bunch of content and story there. So that'll help build a brand, not only as far as the product deal, but a destiny for buddies like Two Lane Life to stop and build that. A brand in the same, but a different identity for sure.
It's just like the advice that I was given last night about how to do the bike nights, or how he can do that page to make it grow. Yeah. The same concept applies to there, where, when you're trying to build community, you have to show the community. The
loyalty.
Yeah, it's not like a self-serving, like, thing about posting you. I mean, yes, your role is important, but also you want people to feel like they can come take a selfie in front of your building, and you're going to repost it.
Exactly.
And you know what I mean?
I do, exactly. Yeah.
No, it's going to be a good thing, man. I guess 2023 is kicking off pretty good for you guys.
Definitely, yeah. This went on the deal and the store, and everything's doing real good.
And there's not bad riding around here. So
no, within 8 miles here in Arkansas.
Yeah,
and this is the start of the Ozark Mountains, and there's great rivers and there's Grand Falls, big waterfalls. Close. Yeah. And
so I still haven't been to the Ozarks yet. I want to do that. So
yeah, it's a cool deal.
We got one of our best friends, Jivat Sonicki's from St. Louis area, so we keep St. Louis. I guess Missouri is kind of how Terralingual was for me, where it's so close that I'll do it later.
Yeah,
I'll do it later. I'll do it later, and then it's like
too late.
Yeah, it's either gonna be too late or it's like you're kicking yourself because you could have been enjoying it so much because it is so close. You know what I mean? So, well, cool, Frank. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you.
And it's gonna be an exciting year. I can't wait to watch you build all these things.
I can't wait to party with you 6 months from now in my store down there for sure, dude.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you later.
Bud.
Yeah.